So on paper, supposed to be a pretty good night of sports. In reality, didn't turn out necessarily to be an epic night that we will never forget, that's for sure. That's how we start this morning. Bill, how you feeling on a Tuesday morning as June is about to wrap up?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Feeling that kind of way that was kind of excited about last night. You had a little College World Series action that I figured I'd get involved with. You had Game 1 of the Stanley Cup that was I thought would be a little fun. It was going to be interesting to see what the Clippers and Suns would do, and none of the three really all that entertaining to watch. I guess hockey was probably what I was most invested in, but I was concerned. I kind of think I might have said this on air last week as Patrick and I kind of talked about it. I was worried about the Canadians being able to match up with the Lightning and had kind of actually been rooting for the Vegas Golden Knights to not get knocked out or the Islanders to beat Tampa. And sure enough, last night you could tell pretty early on that series is going to be pretty lopsided, a 5-1 victory for Tampa. We'll see if Montreal can bounce back tomorrow night. The Clippers and Suns game, I'm having a hard time with the NBA, to be honest. That was second. That was third on my list last night. So second on my list would have been, getting involved in the College World Series a little bit. I haven't done it much, but all right. I figured Vandy, Mississippi State could be a pretty good series. Could be pretty competitive. Could be some good pitching matchups. 7 runs in the first, and then basically Twitter took over with wanting to everybody that at least was on my Twitter timeline wanting to drive to Omaha to find the Vandy Whistlers and have a word of prayer with them, I guess. So, yeah, those 3 things last night, kind of what you were hoping for. Shoot, at one point, Tim, I'm flipping over and watching Argentina and Bolivia soccer just to watch Lionel Messi play a little bit and see what he can do, because I don't ever watch Argentina or soccer or Messi. So I was like, let me see, it's such a bad night. Everything's such a blowout. Let me flip over and see this guy. Well, they're up 4-1 or whatever. So, yeah, it was that kind of night where you had plenty of options to look at. Nothing that really probably kept your entertainment for longer than I would say 10 minutes.
Jack Leiter, one of the stories. It wasn't a good sign, Bill, when you turn on the College World Series and they're like, hey, bad news here in the opener, there is a weather delay. And then they come back on. I guess it basically was delayed for about an hour. And they're like, yeah, that weather delay, it was a delay and there was no weather. And that 7-run first inning you're talking about, where Mississippi State just gives Vandy a bunch of base runners. They end up hitting a 3-run home run to kind of cap it off. And I think Kyle Peterson on the broadcast last night put it best. If Vandy was going to win a national championship and make it back-to-back, even though we didn't get a champion in 2020 because of the COVID-shortened season, if they were going to win a national championship, they had to win with Jack Leiter on the mound. Wasn't necessarily the case with Mississippi State. It didn't have that kind of feel for it last night. And, man, Mississippi State fans have made the trip, haven't they? You talk about it is the Vandy Whistler, and then about 20,000 of Mississippi State fans, it feels like, out in Omaha.
24. I went back and looked, or whatever the attendance was. I kind of read a little bit before the show, more so just to see if there was anything. Because I didn't stay invested in that. At one point, I was like, I think it was an early bedtime, relatively early, despite everything. But I think 24,000, a little over. And obviously, what did you say? 4/5 Mississippi State fans.
Yeah, a bunch for sure.
I mean, it was a home game. It was an absolute home game, but they were out of it. They were taken out of it within the first inning, and unfortunately, could never generate anything that got them going. Again, I guess they had was it the 4th inning, I believe, the 3rd or 4th inning. They get the guy on first. Looked like they were down 7-1. Looked like they might be able to generate a little momentum, and then ground into the double play from third to the second baseman, who one hops it over to the first baseman. And that pretty much killed that rally. And it just seemed like Mississippi State could never get anything going. And oh well. Maybe tonight's another night. Maybe we are heading for that time of the summer. Who knows? But yeah, a little bit of a letdown last night with what I thought could be a decent night of sports.
From the Gamecock perspective, Shane Beamer tweeting out that he's sitting in the Atlanta airport and gets a call another commitment for Gamecock football, making it 9 in 9 days, but another unnamed commitment, at least as far as I know. I haven't cracked the case on this one yet, Bill. What about you?
No, I have. Yeah. Yeah, we did get the actual recruiting news yesterday is that it would appear that some of the commitments that could potentially be commitments that could be potentially welcome homes have at least set commitment dates. Ryan Brubaker, the offensive lineman that I've talked a lot about, will commit on Sunday on at 3 o'clock on July 4th. Nick Imoriwa, I believe is how you say it. The safety linebacker from Irmo has now set a date of July 1st. So that is at least Thursday. So you get that. And Felix Hinton, a defensive tackle out of Georgia, who they really like, has put out on Twitter. I'll go back and look because I didn't stay up late enough to see if he actually put out his date. But he put on Twitter that he would be making an announcement of when his announcement would come to make his commitment.
Which is where we are these days, right? Hey, that's better than I'm going to announce that I'm narrowing down my list to 20 schools. There's a lot of people do it as well.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
From 20 to 15. Oh boy. It's 2021.
He's dropping and look, I'm all for these kids having their moment. But as a former, this is where I get grizzled about the recruiting business. When you put out a tweet that says 12 hours ago, so roughly 6 p.m. yesterday, that he will be dropping his commitment date tomorrow, which would be today. All right, buddy. Good job. All right, let's move forward with it. Let's get this thing over and move forward. So you got 3 of them. You got 3 potential welcome homes that at least now appear to be making an announcement within the next 7 days.
Also, Gamecock news yesterday that USC women's basketball and UConn will continue their series. UConn will be coming to Columbia this coming season, and then will return the trip up to Connecticut in the following season after that. And it's become not just a game. To me, this thing has become a series, and I don't know if we can call it a rivalry necessarily, but it's certainly one of, if not the best matchups in college basketball on the women's side of things, with where the programs have gotten to. Last year's game was tremendous up in Connecticut. The Gamecocks falling just short in overtime, but I think good for everybody involved in college basketball seeing that news from yesterday, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, certainly the way that women's college basketball is, you've got to kind of test yourself throughout the season. And again, we've kind of talked about it, that there's not a lot of parity in women's college basketball. So having these big time marquee matchups is what you have to do. And this is where, if you lose, you lose. It's no big deal. You move on, you finish your conference play, and you get ready for the NCAA tournament, but you at least know how you match up with what is likely going to be another Final Four team. So, wise decision. You should always do it. You see a lot of the men's teams consistently do it. When you talk about the Champions Classic, I believe is what it's called, that takes place the very first night or two of college basketball that involves Duke and Kansas, Kentucky, and Michigan State. So, yeah, keep playing these kind of games, because, look, losing doesn't hurt you, but winning gives you a sense of where you are when it comes to actually getting into the NCAA tournament, having a chance to win the national championship. And that's what Dawn Staley's built, is a program that it's either national championship or bust for them. And with the roster that she again has assembled, that'll be the expectation this coming season.
And did you see, speaking of women's sports on that side of things, there was a woman last night in New York that fulfilled a 60. Did you see? Do you know who I might be speaking about?
I did not see this. I missed. I was way too caught up in Argentina, Bolivia.
Gwen Goldman is her name. She's 70 years old. 60 years ago, she was turned down. She wanted to be a back girl for the New York Yankees. 60 years ago, she was turned down, and last night she was the back girl for the New York Yankees. Okay. 60 years later, at the age of 70. How about that?
All right. You know what? To be honest, I flipped over before the Angels pitcher decided to get sick on the mound, but it was the Angels were up 2-0. I watched just a little bit of that as well. The Angels got up on the Yankees 2-0. Other than that, I moved on from that game, and I hate now that I missed that.
A thrill of a lifetime times a million, she says. Gwen Goldman at 70 years old, the back girl for the New York Yankees last. So all kinds of stuff going down yesterday. Braves a 4-0 winner against the Cincinnati Reds. So good news there, creeping back towards 500, just 3 games under 500 now. Atlanta is after shutout yesterday, and the Reds fall to 500 on the season. It was Kyle Muller and a bunch of different Braves combining on the effort from the pitching side of things. Looks like Ronald Acuna Jr. Doing things as usual at the plate, 2 for 4 with RBIs. And Atlanta, 21 home runs now for Acuna Jr. heading to the All-Star break, which is not too far away. Seen some home run derby movement this week, Bill. That's when we know that we're nearing that slowest time of the sports year. And fortunately, I think for us around here, Shane Beamer and company have really cranked things up as far as the recruiting calendar goes and how busy things have been for Carolina football. But it is going to start to slow down a little bit. You see our buddy Eric Kimmery yesterday. He said he got home after a busy time, obviously a busy month, and his Mrs. Kimmery gave him a long list of things to do around the house with the hashtag welcome home.
Yeah, that's welcome home. I like that. I like that.
Well done. Huh?
The wife was more than happy to see her husband just with a long list of things that he needed to get accomplished.
Well played, Mr. Kimmery there. Guys, that Braves-Reds game was Sunday for nothing.
Yeah.
Sunday
for it. Yeah. I wasn't going to question you on that. I thought that the Braves might have won back-to-back games against the Reds 4-0. I didn't really pay attention to the Reds. You said that. I knew that the Braves won 4-0 on Sunday. I was like, how about that? Back-to-back 4-0 wins. But yeah,
just sitting right in front of me. You're right. My fault. My fault on that one. Starting off with a struggle there for me. I'll take the L on that one. Appreciate the heads up. 803-404-6100 is where you can get me. You can get us, the Cool Care Heating and Air text line and the Love Chevy phone lines, keeping us straight. Appreciate that. Jess hit us up just before the show even started. Said, good morning, sirs. I don't watch hockey at all, but I'm becoming a fan of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Won last night 5-1. Got to learn the history of this franchise. I've been living under a rock when it comes to NHL. But yes, Tampa Bay Lightning, a great team to watch. I'm officially hooked on hockey. Thanks, guys. Jess, I feel like this is you, not necessarily with Tampa, but you do have an interesting relationship with the Lightning, and you have become hooked on hockey here in the last few years, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, playoff hockey. There is a difference. Now, I will say that I think going to a hockey game is a lot of fun. I've been to several with my sister living in Raleigh, and again, my buddy down in Tampa. So regular season hockey I still enjoy, but I will not go. I don't sit down on a nightly basis and look over to NBC or what is it, CNBC or whatever channel it's on, USA. Be like, all right, who's the matchup tonight? Who are we watching tonight? No, but playoff hockey I can get completely involved in. But again, if Jess thought that that was a good one last night, you really should have been around for a lot of the Lightning Islanders games last week that were intense and hard hitting, because last night's game kind of got out of hand early. And the Canadians, I was going to say, Tim, did you see the statistic? They flashed up before. I was kind of watching the little pregame show for a minute here and a minute there. They flashed up the statistic about a month ago, I guess, roughly, give or take. The Canadians were down 3-1 to Toronto in the first round of the playoffs. They were down 3-1, and they were plus 10,000 on the betting line to win the Stanley Cup. They were slightly less than that midseason when they made a coaching change. They are an underdog here, and it showed last night. We'll see if they're able to scratch out one victory or if this is going to be a clean sweep for Tampa.
We'll get our buddy Patrick Perret's take on that as well. A little bit more hockey initiated. You guys, how long has it been now? Has it been 3 years since you were in the streets of Columbia shaming him after the Hurricanes beat the Washington Capitals?
Yeah,
It's been a while, hasn't it?
I guess that was 2 years ago because 2018 the Caps won it. 2019 the Blues won it, and then last year Tampa won it in the bubble. So I would guess it was 2019.
Time flies that way as we sit here, and we're almost done with June here in 2021 on Tuesday, June 29th, 6:20 in the a.m. Jen Jensen holding things down, producing in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios in downtown Columbia. At Tim Hill 1075, where you can find me on Twitter. Bill is at Will Gunter. Our buddy at _ Patrick Perrette will be along soon enough, and we'll see where we end up going today. But you're right, Bill. A bit of a bummer to start because it wasn't an epic night of sports. What was it the other day I came in, man? Man, it was absolutely perfect lined up with the College World Series and then the NBA playoffs and then the NHL playoffs. It's not what we got last night, but we'll see what we can do for you today. It's the early game here on 107.5.
The way the Tampa Bay manufactured offense. So it's a 2-0
All right, let me get some coffee and check on something real quick here.
All right. Weird. And Whit Merrifield got a couple more hits, up to 284 on the season. Three more hits. Crazy, man. John Walker got a hit yesterday's 215. See what he's up to. 4 homers this year. Got it, Chad. 4th of July weekend, SEC Media Days. Then you got, I think, another week before players report for camp, and then time to go.
Okay, good news. It was not my boat that was tearing up the dock.
That is good news.
There was a little message, little alert from our little neighborhood community there that Dock 8, Boat Slip 9 was having a rough go of it, but I couldn't remember what I was in. Not me. So we're all good to go. 'Cause it's windy out there. It's actually died down. It was crazy out there yesterday. Yes, Jan. NBCSN. I'm sorry, I was all over the map on that one. Just ESPN next year. ESPN a little bit. Good morning. That's right, Chad. We got July 4th weekend. SEC Media Days is the 17th, Tim?
Yeah, that's right.
17th, yep. So we're right around the corner from that.
Morning.
Players reporting. All kinds of stuff coming up. But right now, oh boy, we get another night like last night where it's just blowout after blowout after blowout. Hard to believe also we still got the NBA Finals to go. Tell you what, for somebody who laid around on the couch this morning or last night, my back, I feel like a very old man there, Tim.
Older than usual?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what I've done to myself. Maybe it was the backflip off of the boat on Saturday.
That could do it.
Yeah,
Well, you
David, that
look
storm. I did. They said I got all the way around. The kids, I got almost perfect 10s. They were very, very impressed with my athleticism.
That's because they know you still have to feed them.
I would be that guy who still has a lot of athletic ability, but I'm in the training room like 6 hours before even a practice to like get like massaged up, stretched out, to be in the ice tub. Once I'm loose, I'm pretty good. Depending on the schedule for later today, I would like to make a gym run, sit in the sauna a little bit.
Gym, run, and sauna.
Or more it'll be sauna, probably stair climber, back to the sauna, shower.
Nap.
I'd love it now. Oh.
Yeah. All right, head back in. All right, guys.
It's the Clippers and the Browns, right? For my lifetime, the worst pro franchises out there. I don't even know who else I would put up there to contend with. They're, I guess, trying to round it out with a Major League Baseball franchise, but I guess I would probably go the Pittsburgh Pirates. But me growing up, there was Bonds and Bonilla, and they were pretty good. And it's hard for me to put them in there like the Clippers and the Browns. And I bring it up simply because the Clippers narrowed the gap last night in the Western Conference Finals 3-2 now with a 14-point win. Paul George leading the way with 41 points. But I'm with you on that Western Conference Finals series that it just is not that interesting to me, or hasn't been that interesting to me. And the NBA in general now struggling to get my interest after Trae Young goes down the other day with the weird stepping on the referee's foot, and now he's questionable for tonight's game. I guess it is the Eastern Conference game. A much more interesting series, I feel like. Maybe it's just because Atlanta's closer, and growing up watching Dominique and Jordan and those years, always. I wouldn't say I was a fan of the Atlanta Hawks, but if I had to pick, a second or a third tier kind of team in the NBA to follow, that would be it. And it's been interesting. Trae Young's just fun to watch. We talked about that a while back, Bill. But what about you? Are you with me with the Clippers and Browns? Obviously, the Browns much improved here in the last several years and becoming much more relevant. Clearly, the Clippers are as well.
Yeah, you got me thinking. I was kind of looking back at Major League Baseball because I'm with you on the Clippers. They've just been horrendous. I mean, they had a string of number one picks there for a little while they couldn't do anything with, and then the Browns, very, very bad, very, very bad.
We
That's
get a
a great
Michael Orr with
question.
Candy reference.
Yeah, I wanted to go the
That's the
Candy
one that
Man
sticks out
there
to
on
me.
that.
Mike hits us up. Good point from Mike. The Baltimore Orioles are in the conversation for sure, but because I was a Cal Ripken Jr. guy, and they were respectable for most of his career, I would say. But yeah, it's been a while since then, and they've struggled for sure. Anthony, yep, he says my Pirates could be considered in that group. Haven't won a championship since 1979.
It's interesting. I'm just going through the list of. So I just started in the American League, and I'm kind of going back to 1990 is where I kind of start this. And the Orioles, I guess one of the things I at least give them credit for, remember them for, what was the little kid who reached out over the wall and called? I mean, the Orioles were actually pretty good. You mentioned Cal Ripken Jr., but I want to say it was in the 90s. And
Jeffrey Mayer, I think.
Was it Jeffrey? Yeah, you know what I'm talking. And the Orioles were actually pretty good back then. The Yankees have been good. Tampa's been in some World Series. Red Sox have won some World Series. And I go to the Central, so that leaves the Blue Jays. But I mean, the Blue Jays, I guess in my lifetime, in the last 30 years, I've seen. Was it Joe Carter? Boy, I'm digging off of Mitch Williams.
Yep, you got it.
Joe Carter. I've seen the White Sox in the World Series. I've seen the Indians, the Tigers, the Royals, the Astros. So I guess that leaves for me in the American League the teams that I would label as since 1990 what I kind of consider the worst is I guess I'm going to say maybe the Mariners, even though I loved watching them with Ken Griffey Jr. and Randy Johnson and Jay Buhner and that whole bunch. So I kind of have to eliminate them. That kind of leaves me with the Los Angeles Angels. I know they've had Mike Trout. They've done some things, but I don't think the Angels have. If the Angels been in the World Series, I'd have to go back.
Oh yeah, they won it right around 2000.
Even crazier.
Remember that guy?
Okay, and then the Texas Rangers. That's a lot of parity. When you do that in the American League, you just start the American League and do that. I mean, baseball is the sport with the most parity, right? If you're able to go through and say basically the last 30 years. I mean, the last 30 years, the A's, I don't think have been in the World Series in the last 30 years. I think their run ended right there in the late 80s. That almost every team in the American League has been in the World Series. Not every team, but almost every team has been in the World Series for 1 year at some point. That's pretty impressive for a professional sport, right?
No doubt about it. Rooster P says good morning from St. Louis on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. The 18-wheeler moving in the Midwest today. How about Detroit sports? Anything? Oh, yeah, the Pistons have been certainly relevant on and off in my lifetime, much more than relevant to kind of Michael Jordan having to overcome the bad boys and the whole deal. And then it was, Richard Hamilton and company, I think, won a championship not too long ago. But the Tigers have struggled. I might want to throw them in that conversation as well. Looks like most of you are going to go with the Mariners, and that one, David and Chris voting for the Mariners this morning. But I'm with you, Bill. Maybe it's star power that kind of can trump some of the lackluster results. Because when you think about the Clippers or the Browns through the years, when I think about those two franchises, I have zero stars connected to them. Obviously, here in the last few years, they're changing that and have brought on stars and have plenty of star power in the last several years. I'm just saying historically, and with Ken Griffey Jr. being with the Mariners for as long as he was, like you mentioned, Edgar Martinez, the Hall of Fame DH as well.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Rodriguez started there.
Right. So plenty of stars there, but you're right. Baseball, even without the salary cap, somehow has figured out parity. If I had to come up with an answer of the league that has the most parity, I would pick the NFL. But the way the Patriots have kind of dominated the last several decades, and Cleveland, who else would you throw in the conversation in the NFL at the bottom? Anthony, nope, that was Craig who hits us up with the Tampa Bay Bucks. He would say until they got Tom
Well,
Brady, had the short
I mean,
stint with John Gruden. He does point out the one Super Bowl.
You would go right to where Rooster Pete went. You would say the Lions, right? I mean, the Lions.
Yeah.
The Lions, if I guess, directly caused two of the greatest NFL players to retire instead of continuing to play for them.
I got Barry Sanders and Megatron, who was just in town.
Megatron, yeah.
Yeah, they're,
I mean,
they're right there as well. And it doesn't look like with I don't know. I don't even think Lions fans have a ton of confidence that Jared Goff is going to get that franchise now moving in the right direction after Matthew Stafford's been unable to do it for years and years.
Yeah, I mean that one. You had small periods of success with the Jags. I guess you kind of look on the Jets. I guess they had that small run under Sanchez where they were AFC championship game contenders. The Dolphins have been nothing since when did Marino retire? The mid '90s, I guess.
Yeah,
the Dolphins have been absolutely nothing. So yeah, you kind of go through that. The parity's still kind of there. The Arizona Cardinals obviously have. Why do I feel like was it Ken Wisenhunt who got him to a Super Bowl? Am I thinking correctly on that? Back in the 2000s, I feel like we're all digging this morning. This is where we are in the summer. We're all digging into the vault, having to go back 15, 20 years and remember Super Bowls or World Series and who exactly was in it.
I don't think Wisenhunt was the coach. He might have been. I'm trying to think of more that. I know Kurt Warner had a couple of years there, but I don't think got him to the Super Bowl. Anthony going with the Bengals, another franchise that deserves some consideration. But Marvin Lewis was so consistently slightly above mediocre, consistent at making the playoffs, never winning a playoff game. Jan throws out the Florida Marlins.
Yes, and by the way, I feel good about my
series
memory. All the spinach I've been eating the past few years.
Got Wisenhunt.
27-23 in the 2009 Super Bowl. Mike Tomlin, the head coach for the Steelers, Ken Wisenhunt for the Cardinals.
So who was the quarterback there? If you got it pulled up in front of you, obviously Ben Roethlisberger for the Steelers. So we're going to play that.
It was you already said it. You were right.
It was Kurt Warner.
It was Kurt Warner, and they had Edgerrin James as their running back. Larry Fitzgerald, who apparently just doesn't age. It was wide receiver.
Another great suggestion on the baseball front, the Padres, from an anonymous texter on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. And yet I don't think of them that a lot of that has to do with Tony Gwynn, another kind of star I attached to them, even though they weren't great growing up. They had Gary Sheffield for a little while. Stole Fred McGriff. I mean, I think the Braves stole Fred McGriff from them as well back in the day. And then here in the last couple of years, obviously, Fernando Tatis Jr. has that franchise in a completely different spot. But yeah, there were a lot of years there that you could put the Padres in that conversation as well. So, Bill, is there anything that to me, it always takes really good games and really good performances. That's why I got into the Eastern Conference Finals a little bit because of Trae Young and just his competitiveness, especially in that Game 7 against the 76ers in Philadelphia. And to me, he's an easy guy to watch and appreciate. And then to see him not be at full strength the other night after that injury, and that's tough to watch and kind of disconnected me a little bit from that series. I don't know what it would take for me to get more invested in the Clippers and Suns. Maybe Kawhi Leonard coming back since he's been out so long, but that doesn't seem likely at all. Maybe Chris Paul kind of taking over for the Suns now that he's back there. But Devin Booker is, I don't know if I would call him fun to watch. He's a heck of a player, but I just don't have that same kind of connection to any of those players on the West, in the West right now. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's the issue with the Suns, because I really do like the Suns. I like that they actually went out and built a franchise basically through the draft and then added the guy in Chris Paul to make it all kind of come together. And I think that's neat because the Suns had been awful, just absolutely atrocious the last few years leading up until them getting into the bubble last year in the shortened season. But they had been really bad. They were able to go out. They got Devin Booker. They got DeAndre Ayton. in on the roster, and then kind of continue to build from there, adding a piece here, adding a piece there. But you look at that roster and the way that they were able to construct it, pretty good job, man. I got to give them credit for what they're doing. But you're also right. Like I don't know if it's I don't. Chris Paul is always an interesting guy. I think he's polarizing, which is weird for a guy because I don't know if he's polarizing in the same sense that other superstars are. Maybe it's really good commercials that keep him from being completely disliked, but he's kind of a weird player in terms of what the public perception is. Devin Booker is really fun, but again, I don't think he doesn't do it with the flair that Trae Young does. DeAndre Ayton is a really good young big guy that is fun to watch. But again, it doesn't have the flash of Trae Young or the flash of the Golden State Warriors or just the raw, like I need to see that of LeBron James or somebody like that. So yeah, you kind of throw them in the background, be like, all right, nice team, but I'm not going out of my way to sit down and watch a playoff game with them on television.
And throw Paul George into that category of a really good player, obviously, with 41 last night, career high for him, and helping the Clippers make it a 3-2 series. Suns still lead there, but not necessarily a big-time connection or some guy I feel like is must-see TV. We'll see how that series continues or see if the Suns can finish them out, switch over to the Eastern Conference tonight. And, again, Trae Young, and it's still questionable for that ball game with a sprained ankle. And I think the Hawks' chances then very much a question mark as well if they're not going to have their leader and they're a guy who's a superstar now at this point. 9 recruits in 9 days. The trend continues yesterday for Shane Beamer with another welcome home tweet out there. We'll talk plenty more Gamecock football as we continue to roll on this morning. 803-404-6100 is the number. It's the early game. It's 107.5 the game.
Jan, the Marlins have 2 World Series titles, but only 3 postseason appearances.
Last year was the first time they went to the playoffs and didn't win the World Series.
Wait, what? When?
I think it was last year, maybe the year before.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Last year,
Braves got them in 1 game, or maybe.
Yeah, you're right. Last year because they redid everything. It was weird. Yeah, I'll only admit this on the live stream since we're all family here, but I got to admit the last few days I'm kind of being drawn into the soccer cups here, the Euro Cups and the.
That's awesome.
We're all family, so you guys can help me through this. But yeah, I got to admit I might be getting a little suckered into some summertime soccer.
The Euro thing, that's what you're getting into?
Yeah, I got into it a little bit. What was it last Thursday? When I think all those, maybe last Wednesday. And then yesterday, it's easy to go to my other office and flip on the TV and just have it on in the background. The crowds are into it and everything. It really was strange. You watch the Euro Cup and the crowds are going crazy and they're, just insane people over there. And then last night, you watch Argentina, Bolivia, and it's honestly like watching a professional game and then watching like a JV middle school game because there's no crowd there and it's just dark and it's not well lit. It's just such a difference in going from watching, what was I watching yesterday? Croatia, Spain, I think, to Argentina, Bolivia.
While I was in school, my college roommate just absolutely, that was like his pet peeve of the lighting at the Carolina Coliseum, how it would look on TV compared to other college basketball.
It did seem, I remember that, it did seem dark. Oh. Looks like it's died down pretty good. I'm guessing that storm is mostly passed through by now. Or made its way. I don't know where it's at.
Well, if I had to depend on my view, I could do nothing because apparently they're working on the what is it, the facade of the building or the outside of it.
Right.
So right now there are these big white curtains in front of the windows, so I see nothing but white. So for all I know, I could say it's snowing out right now.
It's not snowing.
Okay. Guess I'll be checking the radar and going to some other windows.
Hmm.
They're just getting it all spruced up here for when you guys return.
Yippee skippy.
Not hearing the sincere enthusiasm.
Well, there's a difference in waking up 30 minutes later. Or as
I wouldn't
opposed
know.
to 30 minutes earlier and having to drive somewhere. I do look forward to coming back and being able to use my own personal gym downstairs. That gym better be open.
I would sure think it is. Not like anybody's been here to use it.
Right. Is the roly poly still open down there?
I think so.
What do you tunnel up underneath the building and just pop straight up in the studio?
Way to
And
do it.
walk around to see what's going on down there?
No, I parking garage. Hey, when I come in the morning, my basic thing is to get in the building and avoid any unsavory characters. Like that's what my eyes are looking at.
Good news, Chris. Sunny in Orangeburg. Anthony, is that you that slept on the wrong side of your sleep number? Or you think it was still there?
Uh-oh.
No, I think I'm just. I don't know what's wrong. I did have a fun weekend. The trip to the farm and avoiding the camels. And
So nice to be compared to farm animals too. You know, that's on social media.
is that sensitive Jen that just showed up right there at 6:47?
That's right. So I'm stretching right now so I can come after you.
Have you ever been out to that thing?
I haven't, but I'd love to go.
Don't take your own car. Take somebody's car that you're not real fond of at the moment.
Can I borrow yours?
Hope your Tuesday mornings off to a good start. College World Series finals not off to a great start last night. First of all, a weather delay with no weather. And I get that we have technology now, and most of the time we get it right. Right? I mean, there have been so many times where a storm is coming and you're able to avoid it. A bunch of rainouts that have been called correctly, especially maybe this year for whatever reason. I feel like there were several in Columbia that were smart enough to go ahead and call or alter, maybe move up the series, right? And you can avoid some bad weather. It just stinks when there's a weather delay and there's absolutely no weather. And that's what happened last night. And then you got a lackluster baseball game, kind of the exception, Bill, for the games that we've gotten this year. I feel like maybe NC State has kind of taken out any kind of good karma that the College World Series in 2021 had, and the Mississippi State Vandy series off to a bit of a dud start last night with 7 runs in the first inning for Vandy, and Mississippi State kind of giving them a bunch of them. I think they ended up with 2 or 3 hits in the inning. A 3-run homer was the big shot there towards the end. And then Jack Leiter, I mean, once you get a 7-run lead for Jack Leiter, forget about it. I think anybody that's been paying attention to college baseball last night would have bet everything that Vandy was going to hold on to that one and get the win, and they ended up winning 8-2. So a bit of a bummer start to that College World Series finals. Reminds me again of appreciating what we got to see with the Gamecocks back in the day. Our buddy Mike Gillespie over at ABC Columbia doing a 10-year anniversary special for the back-to-back championships. I guess that one ran on Sunday over on ABC Columbia. And just watching some of the excerpts of that and seeing the guys talk about it here in the last several days or weeks, 10 years later, and how special that run was, man. That's what I don't know. I guess I'll always connect the College World Series finals to the run in 2010, 2011, and then getting back there in 2012, Bill.
I mean, that was, well, I don't know. There's a lot that I take into account for that, not just because of those 2 years, but really the 10 years leading up to it. When South Carolina, it had become kind of the summertime tradition to watch South Carolina in the postseason, the regionals, the super regionals. I had seen at that point, what was it, 6 trips? Again, memory good on some things, not good on everything. But you go back into 3 straight trips at the beginning of the 2000s for South Carolina there, and then you had 3 more in there, and then you finally get back and you're able to start winning it. But to me, it was a culmination of what Ray Tanner had really been able to build and that incredible run. I'll never forget doing radio in Columbia, and right before the first run, South Carolina gets eliminated by Auburn in Hoover, and people are calling in and saying, this Ray Tanner guy can't get it done. It's time to move on. Who else is out there that can lead this program over the hump into the next step? And then the next, 3 weekends, next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, was a magical ride for South Carolina as they would go on to win their first national championship and knock off UCLA. And then follow it up the next year, which was incredible. So to me, it was the culmination, and it was something that was really fun to watch. And that the second team, the second championship, the fact that they just didn't lose, right? I mean, didn't lose. I think it continued the winning streak and found ways to win. And I hate that what happened with the third team where they lose to Arizona, because we kind of just brush a really good team off that ran all the way back to the College World Series championship. And it's like, oh, everything just stopped after the second championship. And at times that's a little unfair. That third team was really good and got back, just ran into a red hot Arizona team in the championship series and lost 2-0. But man, that third team, we act like, well, yeah, they didn't do anything. All they did was fight right back, go back to the College World Series and get to the championship series.
Yeah, it is crazy that you can say back-to-back national championship years. I mean, a lot of programs, if Mississippi State loses this thing, this will tie for their best ever. This might be, they might make the argument, best season ever in Mississippi State history. I saw one of their guys, maybe it was Tanner Allen, last night talking about how this is the biggest time ever in Mississippi State sports. And certainly prisoner of the moment and the whole thing. And maybe a Mississippi State historian might disagree, but it's certainly in the conversation. And you're right, you just kind of throw that out there just because 22 wins in a row is so ridiculous in the NCAA tournament. And at the College World Series, they won 12 in a row. I mean, just mind-boggling numbers, and I feel like the farther removed I get from it, the more programs and teams I see that try to replicate that success or get put in that situation, the more I can appreciate now what we got to see a decade ago as we sit here today, the back-to-back championships for Carolina 10 years ago. Speaking of that, Whit Merrifield, 3 more hits in the big leagues last night for the Kansas City Royals at 284 on the season. Obviously, plenty more Gamecocks from that team continuing in the big leagues. Christian Walker, another hit for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jackie Bradley Jr.
30.
Continuing to be himself, even though it's with a different team this year over with the Milwaukee Brewers instead of the Red Sox. Hour number 1 in the books here on the early game. Who knows what we'll get to in hour number 2. Glad you're a part of the show. You're on 107.5 The Game.
Sure. What is this on time thing you guys are doing? It's way got me off my game.
You're very confused.
Trying something different.
It is the middle of June, or the end of June, middle of summer. We like to be a little creative in what we do.
Doing your job properly? What?
Got on the golf course yesterday, Bill.
Oh,
50-39.
nice. There, yeah.
So ridiculous.
We are right now the perfect examples of the inconsistent golfer, because that's about, I'm going to have 1-9 that's going to be up there and 1-9 that's going to challenge getting under 40.
I always felt like if I could get about 3 holes under my belt before I started a round, I was good. But I needed those, couple holes to ramp up.
Are you Jen, are you a go out and practice before you play kind of person? Do you get to the range and hit a couple, or?
I try to just kind of get, kind of warmed up.
Tim, was
stretched
there
out.
any practice swings, any balls hit prior to the start of the round besides putts?
I pulled into the parking lot 5 minutes before tee time.
I was going to say, yeah.
Played with my father-in-law. I see him. He's on the putting green. He's like, gonna putt a couple? I'm like, nope. The next minute, the old ranger calls the old tee time, and off we go.
Yep.
There you go.
I got to admit, the list of things that I try to do before the round starts is make sure the bag is properly secured so that when you pull away, it doesn't fall off.
Because you hate when other people do that to your bag.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I think that's very unprofessional. Remember
It
that.
is. Yep.
Write that one down. So make sure that's number one. Get the shoes on too. Get to the bar for the pre-round drinks. Make sure that I'm stocked up. Hit a few putts. That's 4. And by the time I've gotten all those things done, if there's time to swing the golf club 1 or 2 times just to stretch it out and hit a ball or 2, that's fine. But I also worry that I'm going to hit a bad tee shot or 2 on the driving range, and then that just carries over to the round. So there's no point.
It's more stretching than anything. Man.
Yeah, it is.
Hey.
Hello.
There he is.
The Saints come marching in.
Glad to have you. Saying how we were on time in hour number 1. So clearly, our time nemesis is your deep and probing hot takes that get Bill going, I think.
That's right.
We'll make it the combination of you and Bill.
Did you do normal?
Bug that I found.
Was that for Patrick? You giving him a message?
For all the dads, all the people out there. The problem is the neighbor's cat, the neighbor that never shows up. Like, they only come up like once every 4 or 5 months. Turns out their cat's name is Handsome.
Oh.
Wow.
Awful.
So, and I think of that in 2 ways: when you're calling out the cat, but more importantly, if I'm at the vet, Handsome Gunter, like that's just an ego thing right there.
Not my cat, but that might be if we ever get a cat.
I know that's. I was thinking that could be entertaining.
My kids are actually concerned that I might be more of a cat person than a dog person, that if I ever get a pet, it's going to be a cat. My daughter had a long talk with me about this the other day.
I like your daughter a lot.
Would you consider that?
Getting a cat instead of a dog?
Yeah.
I don't want a pet, so to be honest with you, that really line of thinking had not crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm debating whether I want to stay around here this weekend or just head to Charleston. And I feel like a pet impedes that, because then you have to find a sitter or a hotel that the animal can go to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole.
No, it's the spontaneity. Not so much.
Yeah. So we like to borrow other people's pets from around the neighborhood to claim them as ours when we need them.
There you go. Get
It
your
seems
fix.
to work very well.
See, I have that same attitude with boats.
I don't blame you on that.
Don't want to be committed. I'd like to use one.
Maybe that's one of the reasons I live near my sister now. Trampoline, dog, boat.
There you go.
Perfect.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that would make it easier for you to have a dog as well.
If somebody else has a dog, I got to
No,
get more coffee.
They can
I would
sit your
say.
dog.
Because they're right there.
Yeah, so somebody would be there to take care of it.
Yeah. They got their own show going on.
Although with like you can always just have like a neighborhood kid let your dog out.
But you gotta trust them, to let them in
For
the
Bill,
house.
like if Bill went out of town, you
Right.
could just have a kid that lives in that little strip, give them $20 a day, and they come over 3 or 4 times and let your dog out.
Play with them. Yep.
Yeah, but there's I think the emotional attachment more than anything. Then you feel guilty for leaving the pet alone or not giving enough attention, and
Maybe I used to get paid to do that in our neighborhood, though.
That's why
Right.
you need 2 dogs. That way they have company.
right.
See?
Exactly.
And then
yeah.
you probably need another animal, or
Well, that's
then you're Brian Jeffcoat, and you got a whole slew of stuff going on.
Exactly.
I mean, that's part of it, though. I would feel guilty just leaving one dog at home while I was at work. So I would immediately only get 2 dogs, I think.
Wow. See, then that goes down a bad path.
It's not a bad path. I mean, 2 dogs doesn't become 4 dogs. Like,
That's the motto of the person who ends up with like 7 pets.
We planned on 2, like that would be the max. And
Yeah.
then, rescued the one, and it was like once you rescue one from like a really dire situation, you can't just give them up to some. Like
Right.
I
How
never
many do you
imagined
have
having
now?
3 dogs.
How many do you have now?
We have 3.
And all of them are like mini ponies, aren't they? They aren't tiny dogs. Like they're.
Well, there's
Surprisingly, Jen doesn't have the tiny dog that sits on her lap and looks out the window as she's driving down the
the
road.
person. Well, they might still sit on my lap, but it could be a little more dangerous. Yeah, I don't know. They're like 50 pounds each, and then the husky. So
50 pounds is not huge.
it's not huge. You can't just lift them up or like throw them over your shoulder and be like, oh, you're so cute. But
I've had 2 dogs. I had a dog growing up, and I had a dog with my ex-wife, and I mean, both dogs were awesome, and
yeah,
I don't really care to go through that emotional portion again either.
yeah. The husky, within a day of bringing her home as a pup, she knew where every air conditioning vent was and would lay on them. And that's not changed. Now she's just a speed bump. Gotta stay cool.
Yeah, I'm more worried about maintaining the fish out here and the occasional turtle that gets caught.
Yeah, there you go. Good call. We're back in the open.
Old Mo, the soft shell turtle that's out there.
Love it.
After the busiest several weeks of recruiting in the history of recruiting, because of coming back from COVID and had no official visits for a year plus and no camps and the whole thing, now the NCAA is back to a dead period, and I feel like we're feeling the effects this morning because the College World Series last night not overly competitive, not competitive at all, I should say, and now it's until late July, I think, was when that picks back up, about another month off. So it was basically a month on and now a month off. Bill, I think that is right in line with our sports calendar here in Columbia. Wouldn't you say now is when I guess there's some kind of finality at the end of college baseball season, I think, because of the way that our sports calendar revolves around the Gamecocks. And what we were talking about just a few minutes ago, that Patrick didn't experience, and maybe if you're in town here in the last several years like he has been, that you didn't go through, it didn't become a tradition, didn't become part of maybe your sports calendar, but we just became accustomed to Gamecock baseball playing deep into June, if not all the way until the last game and hoisting the trophy and the whole thing like they did back a decade ago, a couple of times in a row, and then playing for it a third time in a row. But that's where we are right now. It's the month or so breathing room that I feel like you get in the college sports calendar to maybe peek over to other sports, like you may have admitted on the live video stream, or maybe just explore some downtime, get out of town, the whole kind of deal.
Well, it becomes it becomes kind of beach and reading time, right? Like it's weird. I will say this, and I don't know where to take this conversation to hear your opinion as opposed to Patrick's opinion, as opposed to some of the listeners' opinion. I'm 39, just turned 39, so I feel like I'm still in that realm of like I don't do the actual newspaper anymore. I read the newspaper on the internet, right? I don't do
Read the news.
Sports Illustrated. I don't get the Sports Illustrated anymore. I read Sports Illustrated or whatever on the internet. The one thing that is sustaining, the one like book or magazine that we all read, does everybody still go by for their beach trip or their lake days or for their reading in whatever part of the room they like to read? You still go by the Streets and Smith, the Athlon, the Phil Steele, the Lindy's. Like that's the one thing that continues when you talk about paper. I don't know how you would define it, but print magazine, that's the one thing that still continues to be, and that is a tradition of the summer for most men. I mean, I don't know if I know a lot of females that are out there running by the local grocery store before heading out of town to the beach to pick up I'm sure there are some. I'm not saying there aren't. I would assume that they're picking up other magazines, but do y'all still do that? Patrick, I know you're not necessarily an outside guy.
I never have.
How
Never will.
Tim, is that something for our generation that's
Yeah, totally. Well, I think I might be passing it on to my kids now. My mother-in-law bought one, I think it was Street and Smith's last year. It might have been Street and Smith's and Athlon last year because she knew my kids would like it, and they got all into it, right? Because when you have something tangible like that and has the logos and stories on the mascots and the whole thing, it's easy for, they're 6 and 8 now. It's easy for those guys to get into, and that got me into more of the details and getting into names and figures and, you know, returning orders and projections and all of that. Patrick, you got nothing. It's all digital for you, right? If it's digital, it's weird.
I'm not 100% sure they sold that in grocery stores. Like, that's where you buy them, right? Just the grocery store, like the magazine out of the grocery store.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not sure those were even sold, or if they were, I didn't pay attention to it. Like, my preview was, like, I got ESPN, the magazine. We had Sports Illustrated. So whatever was previewed in those, that's what I read. I've never owned a copy of Phil Steele or Athlon or any of that. And actually, yesterday, the PFF College Preview magazine came out, and I did mean to check on that.
But okay, you to an extent, you were reading magazines because I remember.
Well, yeah, it's all because I could Google it. I mean, I could look up like how's Maryland looking this year, how's LSU looking this year, and that would be the most of the extent of my college football preview.
So, Bill, you, on the other hand, this is just your routine, right? You're saying that it's part of the poolside or beachside, lakeside, whatever routine that you have that with you in part of your preparation, just part of the summer routine.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that is part of July. To me, that's always, I guess, growing up, Patrick. You know, when I was younger, that was part of my family. We would take a trip, and I guess now that I think back on it, as I say this out loud, to shut me up in the back seat because we didn't have the tablets or the movies in the headrest or anything. Yeah. You know, like I
did it year round. Like that was always my birthday / Christmas gift from my grandmother on my dad's side. It was Sports Illustrated for Kids subscription when I was little, and then when I got into, I don't even know when I made the switch, but then it was ESPN the magazine. So every month I would have that to read for like a couple hours, and I would read like certain articles of Sports Illustrated, but they were a little intimidating when I was younger.
But I think my grandmother would sign up for those, like, you know, and they might still do them. Like, you know, you get 7 magazines for, you know, $3.50, and so she would sign up for all the ones she likes. But then she would get me like Sports Illustrated that she would bring to me. But that to me is different than the summertime kind of like phenomenon of like, okay, like there was a period, I guess, Tim, maybe when we were in college. So, I mean, I hate to date both of us, but 20 years ago, 21 years ago, the two things that happened that signaled college football season was one of the magazines would come out. You'd go buy that for hanging out, at the beach or something. You take your beach trip with your friends or whatever, and you'd go buy that. And B, the middle of July, what'd you just whisper?
Video game.
The video game. Patrick, I don't know if you ever got to enjoy, because the video game, the cutoff date might have been right before you started driving, but being at Walmart at 12:01 a.m. when they rolled out the platform of brand new college football video games, and the mad scramble that would ensue to get the video game on the way. It was always on a Wednesday night / Thursday morning, and in college, it was a celebrate. There was a bunch of us. We'd go down to 5 Points, and we'd all hang out at Sharky's and all the other places. And then at 11:30, everybody would be like, "All right, man, gotta head on over to Walmart now." Of course, the females would look at us like we were a bunch of dorks, like we probably were. But we'd be like, "All right, gotta head to Walmart now to go pick up a 24 case in the video game and a frozen pizza, and we'll see you girls in about 3 weeks. Like we're gonna go play our new college football game." But those were the two things that you would look for. You'd look for the new college football magazine to come out to be able to read, and then you would get the video game. And then that's honestly, at 39 years of age, being a single guy, that's probably what I'd still be doing right now.
If the video game
It's
exists,
a video game, yeah.
is coming back around, and this brings us right up to date right now to 2021. Patrick, I saw you put out the tweet yesterday, July 1. I mean, we're 2 days away from a new era in college sports, name, image, and likeness. Get into that. And also, it is a new day and age when it comes to high school football stars right here in Columbia. One of the best ones at one of the best programs has decided he's leaving the local school and going to the IMG Academy. We'll get into those details. That prompted on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from Jerry. Appreciate the text in there at 803-404-6100. Get into the specifics as we roll on here on a Tuesday morning, late June 2021. Thinking about the old days, also trying to keep it current here for you as well. Love for you to be a part of the conversation. Again, that number 404-6100. You can also check us out, video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter as well. The station handles at 107.5 The Game. It's the early game here on 107.5.
I know we've discussed it, but I just don't understand how y'all sit down for 3 straight hours. Like, Tim doesn't move. I mean, he might get up occasionally, but
Laser focus, sir.
has nothing to do with focus. I just can't sit for. I could honestly, I'd be better off doing this show for 3 hours standing up than I would sitting down.
Yeah, strangely enough, I got just a folded aluminum chair, but it does have kind of a padded seat. That's great. Anytime I sit in another seat, it just crushes me. This one works well for whatever reason.
Ooh, Craig, I'd be interested. I haven't been. I think Asheville and Cherokee are on my list of places to get to in the next 6 to 8 months. And yes, Chris, I do totally agree. I do not sit well. I honestly am the worst person ever at relaxing. I took a nap outside. I bought one of those zero gravity chairs, and on Sunday I got in it and leaned back and took a nap. And it was like all the neighbors just gathered around, like, "Oh my God, look at him! He's not moving at all. What's wrong with him?"
It's hard for me to sit, even if I'm watching a race or something. I have to have pads of paper or a laptop because I need to be able to be writing something, or I just can't folding laundry. I just can't decompress. I don't know.
Yeah,
So I think you guys are very similar that way, you and Bill. And then I think Patrick and I are the opposite.
You can just park and chill.
I can't, like, you're right, Jen. Like, even if I have something on television, like, I've got to be up kind of like I can't sit for more than like 15 minutes straight without hopping up to just go do something. Just look outside for a minute, look at the way, like, on Saturday or Sunday mornings, looking out I'll sit there and try and drink coffee and lay in my bed and look out over the lake. But I'll start looking around and be like, ooh, I want to mount that TV, or I really need to put some shelves over there where I can put something. Or, man, if
Seriously.
I just move my dresser just a little bit further to the right, and then all of a sudden, like after 10 minutes, like it gets so into my brain, I'm like, all right, that's it. Let's go work on that.
Well, yep. And when I had surgery on my leg a few years back, and literally I was like, non-weight bearing on that side, that you needed to pretty much sedate me for that. I'd be literally rolling on the floor to try to get to something because it was easier than the crutches. Like, and I would find everything that needed to be done. Oh my gosh, little paint splatter there, a little bit.
Well, it's kind of like this room that I'm sitting in. Like, I was trying to sit here and have coffee and eggs and bacon on like Sunday. And I mean, I got a great view. There's nothing wrong with it. I got TV. And all of a sudden I started to be like, you know what? I really want to put one of those electric fireplaces right there and then move the picture over. And I want fishing rod holders right there.
Yep.
And the next thing you know, I'm on the computer looking at Lowe's and trying to figure out how much everything costs. And
sounds familiar. Lots of lists.
This is funny though. This is where I draw the line. So I get on Lowe's and I'm looking at those little electric fireplaces that you can get. And I start reading. I'm like, oh, I got to put it together. I don't want to do that. How much does it cost to get? I put together.
As I said, that you and I are good at sitting here. That you got up and left. So
right.
Are you more with them or no? Are you?
No, I had to turn the air conditioning off again. I was freezing.
Wow. But you
have to put a
like
sign
that,
over
right?
the air conditioner to tell the roommates.
Well, yesterday it was 71, 69 right now.
Oh,
goodness.
jeez.
You're gonna take a loan to pay that bill.
Huh?
Who can afford that? Who can afford a 69-degree house?
You're going to have to get one of those extensions like I had to get last year. What was it? I had this mini split right here. And when we first moved in, it was because it's right here that comes on you as you come in the glass doors off the lake. It feels great. Like if you've been out there swimming and everything and you come in, that mini split hits you. It's like walking into a freezer box.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was great. And I thought it was supposed to be energy conserving. And that first electric bill came last August for the month of July. It was like $630.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. No, they offered like 6 payments of $108. They'd break it up because I think even
while you're paying your own, holy crap.
Yeah, I think even Dominion was like, I think he had way too much of a good time last month. So they broke it up over 6 payments.
Wow.
Because I ran it. I mean, I ran it nonstop from like 10 in the morning to like 8 at night. I didn't know. And I was keeping the rest of my house on like 71, 72.
Come back in.
Just cooling all of Lake Murray.
Oh, yeah.
Kidding.
Oh,
We should have spent last summer at your place.
house was awesome. So now the thermostat upstairs stays on 76. And you have to be melting before I'll turn on the mini split.
That's right.
So I had a little fight with a spider in the garage there on the wall. Don't worry, got him. It was just a big guy. No need to be alarmed. So, Bill, the question is on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from Jay. Your thoughts, sir, on Devin Hyatt leaving Dutch Fork as a junior for IMG Academy down in Florida. Devin Hyatt, down in Florida, that is. Devin Hyatt, the younger brother of Tennessee wide receiver Jalen Hyatt. And to me, I bring this up. If this was an isolated incident, I wouldn't bring this up. But I think this is quintessential 2021 where we're at, man. Playing for a state championship program. They won 6 now, I think, under Tom Knotts. Absolutely dominant in the state of South Carolina. Seeing prospects go to big-time programs. South Carolina kind of the exception. I guess Garrett Anderson was a Dutch Fork guy who came to Carolina and played offensive line back in the day, but there haven't been a ton. We were talking about Matt Colburn the other day and his situation with Louisville, ended up going to Wake Forest and being a big-time ACC running back. But, Bill, what do you make of this? Because I feel like this is just where we are in 2021, and it's been unfortunate for the kind of the old school, old-fashioned way of thinking of staying local and playing at your local high school with these academies, especially IMG leading the way in football.
Yeah, I mean, there's two different questions you can ask there. One, I think you're asking about Devin Hyatt in particular, but two, I feel like you're making a broad, asking more of a broader question about kids doing it, across the board, not just Devin Hyatt. For the Hyatt family, whatever's best. I mean, I don't think. I will admit that it would be different if Devin Hyatt was leading a smaller school or one that was, especially in the high school football level, less prestigious. Obviously, what Tom Knotts is doing at Dutch Fork, what Dutch Fork is doing, I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision. That the reasons for leaving, that's up to the Hyatt family. And look, it's a big decision for both Devin and for his parents and for everybody involved in it. And I'm sure there's really good reasons.
Have you seen the place?
IMG.
It's outrageous. Yeah.
No. Well, but my point on that is that's why I'm saying Dutch Fork is not IMG. Let me be perfectly clear about that. But at the same time, I don't know if you're going to go anywhere else and get necessarily better coaching. And I do think that there's something for Devin or for any kid going into his senior year. Well, Devin's, I guess, going into his junior year. But hanging around with your buddies, your friends, the people you've grown up with, I assume, I don't know the Hyatt family. I'm not even going to pretend like I do. I assume they're from the area that Devin has gone to elementary and middle and has grown up with those kids. But, Patrick, what you just said, I think is also an interesting development in American sports that we're actually behind on. We were joking about soccer earlier, about Euro Cup and whatever the other one is taking place. This Central America, I don't know, whatever. Argentina and Bolivia. That's all I got. All right, that's all I got.
Is that Copa? Is that right, Patrick?
Copa America. Yeah.
But the bottom line is, like, as a country, Tim, you think about all the resources. Let's use travel baseball, because a bunch of my buddies right now, I'm getting to that age where a bunch of my buddies have their kids in travel baseball, and it's non-stop. Like, absolutely nonstop. And this is a different conversation. I might take us down here for a second, because as a parent, Austin, my son, is 9 years old, and I kind of want him to be a kid for the summer. Like, I don't want him constantly going to practices or playing games on the weekend. Like, there is an element to him now as he gets a little bit older. If he wants to focus on the sport, hey, let's focus on it. Let's do it year round. But right now, there's an element to him, like hanging out with his buddy this past weekend, being able to go out on the lake. The poor kid is terrified of tubing right now. Maybe my ball was too fast and like moving around. But like,
older sister, it didn't work out great. No,
he's watching the older sister get thrown like 30 yards across the lake. But the bottom line is, I want him to be a kid. But in other countries for soccer, Patrick, these kids like get pulled out of school at what, 11, 12, 13, and get sent to soccer academies.
Yeah, I mean, that is their school. Yeah.
Right, but it's not just that. It's basketball in other countries. It is gymnastics. It's tennis. That is the rule, I think, in most other countries, and it's just how things are set up. I think that's your
point. But we don't necessarily, for a country who puts and this is why I go back to the travel baseball thing, that puts as much effort into sports as we do at times. It is amazing. We don't have, IMG. I remember when IMG was really coming into its own when I was in high school, but it was known more as a tennis factory. I think it was Jennifer Capriati. I think it was like one of the first people I remember like being sent down there. It was kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier, a Sports Illustrated story about how her family pulled her out of like middle school at 14 years old or high school and sent her to IMG. Just, hey, your school training is tennis, not English and science and all those other things. I know IMG now has evolved a little bit more to be more of a school, but it is crazy. Like, if you think about somebody just opening up a baseball factory and said, hey, look, we're going to focus on making sure your kid can read functionally and have some form of a writing arc for
Worst
4 hours
PR
a day.
guy ever.
Huh?
Worst PR guy ever.
Well,
I'm
no,
thinking
but
there's
it's
a
that-
little more
but-
to that, though.
But,
I mean,
that's
a little
it,
more
like that's what it is. Like, hey, we're gonna make sure that your kid can read and can write, and they understand some math. But for 8 hours a day, we're focusing on making them the best baseball player that they can be, so that when they get to 18, the Chicago Cubs or the Washington Nationals or whomever is ready to draft them as a prospect.
So I think the question here is the evolution towards this model where we're going in sports. We're going almost more towards these academies, the whole thing. Is that good? Is that the right model to have? Or is this other old school kind of mentality where you feel like, hey, there's something special about where you grow up and representing your community and the whole deal? Where are you at on this, Patrick? I feel some frustration on your end.
Yeah, because I don't think we're heading that way. This is not where high school sports is headed. I mean, this is the elite of the elite recruits. Like, these are kids that are going there. They're cutting their high school career short because they're saying, what's my fastest way to the NFL? What's my fastest way to the NBA or whatever?
Mhm.
And the fastest way to do that is to go get professional caliber
Easy enough.
coaching and resources. Like, you know who the strength coach at IMG is?
One more time.
The strength
Gonna make it
strength
think
coach at
this morning?
IMG right now?
It's not
Yes,
Dillman,
that's-
is it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Jeff Dillman. Yeah.
Wait a minute,
Is he the head guy? I think he's the
I don't think
assistant
he's the
guy,
head
right?
guy. Yeah, I think he's the assistant.
Right?
Oh, I got
So he was an SEC strength coach, and he's the assistant strength coach at a high school. So I mean, you're getting world class
Sadly,
facilities
Gamecocks
and
aren't there,
coaching,
so, you know.
so that you can hit the ground running as soon as you get to
I
college.
get it.
And I mean, like, you're not getting an
Yes.
offer to go to IMG
Yeah, hold on,
if you're not a stud. Like,
Right.
I'm sure Devin Hyatt's not paying for his
I'll tell you
his
what,
classes at
Justin
IMG or his
Times,
tuition at
right?
IMG
Oh,
because it
my
is like
gosh.
$30,000. I think I'm pretty
All
sure
right,
it is the
hold
same
on,
price as
Bobby.
most colleges. So it's like the elite kids that are going there. It's not like your
Well,
random kid that's going to go there to get
Hold
big
on.
and get ready for college unless
Yeah.
they have just outrageous resources.
No one's
While
arguing that.
true- While true, you're seeing it evolve further down the chain. IMG is still the top line. Basketball has been what's at the forefront of this. It exploded in the 2000s.
But
I'm trying to
basketball's already
remember-
ruined because kids don't even want to go to college anymore. So who cares if they
Tim,
want to go to high school or not?
Remember, this is when I was really doing basketball recruiting, and I'm trying to remember I don't even know I can't remember what it was called, but it was up in the upstate. And I think there was a kid who went to Florida State who went there, and they were trying to do it. And literally the school was a house. A house. 'Cause I drove by it. I missed it going, like, driving down whatever, like a little road there was, and I can't remember the exact name of it. It's no longer, they finally got, because they weren't certified and the kids couldn't get into college and whatever. But it was literally, it was the first, I guess, exposure I had, especially as a guy who's doing recruiting, into what this was becoming. And that kids literally would go to this house, and I kid you not, they were literally being taught to, hey, read this book and write your name 50 times. And if you can do both of those, you're fine. It's time to go practice basketball today. And we're going to do that for 8 hours, and we're going to play 3 games this week and so forth and so on. And Patrick, while I agree with you, right now it's still the elite of the elite. You are starting to see more of this. And it is interesting to see if this is the model that somebody comes up with or continues to push.
Well, maybe it's not more of the IMG Academy specifically that you might be having a problem with here, Patrick, but it is the devaluing of high school sports in general. Playing just your regular high school team. Bill, to your point, your travel baseball team can trump your high school baseball team. AAU basketball has trumped high school basketball now and has devalued playing there. The local high school basketball coach used to be the resource for college recruiters, and now not nearly as much. I think that's the larger conversation. My question is, are we moving in the right direction for not just sports, but kind of the development of these kids in general? And it's easy for me to go old school and say, hey, it was much better when you played for your high school team, and that was the special. It's really special. And Les hits us up on the YouTube live stream and says the term is loyalty. Yeah, well, I get that, and being loyal to your community and representing your community is certainly important, but also you don't want to be limited by your community, Bill. And I think that's one of the unique parts about this specific instance with this specific player in Devin Hyatt. First of all, his brother's already been through this process, right? Already been a big time recruit and gone on to Tennessee. So his family is kind of schooled up in what's going to be the next 2 years of his life. I feel like they know what's going to happen. And he also goes to one of the best football programs, not just in the state of South Carolina. You could certainly argue in the history of the state of South Carolina, but in the country right now, I would think Dutch Fork has a leg to stand on when you're comparing its high school football program to any in the country. And now he's deciding to leave that program and go to IMG Academy.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for he gets an Devin gets an opportunity that, as Patrick just pointed out, few get, the elite of the elite, to go down and not only train with really good coaches, but I don't want to. Here's when I say this: I don't want to say go train with really good coaches, because I feel like that's taking away from Jason Barnes, who's the wide receivers coach at Dutch Fork, right? The former Gamecock Jason Barnes, who's over there now.
I think he's moved on to a college job, by the way.
Okay, maybe he did. But I say all that, like, I feel like I feel like if you're saying, well, it's an easy decision because now Devin gets to be trained by professionals. Well, Tom Knott's staff, I think, is as good as you're going to find anywhere else. They seem to be doing perfectly fine producing players out. So I don't want to make it sound like that, but I do think the element that this young man, Devin Hyatt, has, the opportunity to travel a little bit, to go experience something else that you get, that's really hard to turn down if you're that good of a player. And there is an element that, you get to go against those kind of players day in, day out and improve yourself. So I think there's a lot to it. I'll be interested to see, again, as we evolve over the next 10 or 15 years, as high schools evolve, as you see more of this, what direction high school sports goes with that model.
I think the parents have to understand where they're at too.
Sorry, I think we might have a technical issue there. Patrick, go ahead.
I think the parents also need to understand the level that their kids are at, because there's plenty of kids that there's no reason to pull them out of.
I'm gonna stop you. You'll learn. Your time's coming, buddy. Tim, I don't even think he's gotten there yet. I get what you're saying.
There's kids that aren't gonna make it, and they're going to look back and say, oh, it's a bummer that I missed out on high school for the sake of this. But, I mean, if you just go to this school and you get a full scholarship and you don't make the NFL, it's still worth it. I can tell you right now that a free college education is going to pay off in the long run. So I'm never going to fault it, for making that decision, because if you get a free scholarship, that means the absolute world. That's going to change your life for the next 30 years. So, yeah, sure, you don't get to go to prom, you don't you leave your high school friends, but I would have done it in a heartbeat. I would have gone to IMG Academy if I could have done it, and I wouldn't have thought twice. And I loved high school, but free if you can get a scholarship and almost guarantee yourself a scholarship by going to one of these schools, you 100% do it. I would always tell a kid to do that.
I think that's a little bit different for Devin Hyatt has got offers. He was going to get a scholarship offer. Excuse me. He was going to experience free college at a major university without leaving Dutch Fork. I think,
but there's going to be kids that ride the bench at IMG. I don't know how many. I assume all of their wide receivers are really good.
At IMG,
what if he doesn't play?
I will say this. I know that South Carolina is in the running for a defensive tackle, Dominic James or Nick James. Dominic James, I guess, depending on which website you look at, but 6'3", 270 pounds, made a visit this past weekend. I've kind of looked at their roster a little bit, but I don't know much about the IMG roster in and of itself. I know that they've had really good players roll through there. They've got several, I believe, big time 5-star recruits right now. So again, it's not going to hurt you. And I'm with you. The opportunity to do it. I just long term, what it does for how we train our kids. Not just in football or basketball, baseball, but whatever you want to do across the board, how we train our kids for sports or for life in general. I mean, Jen, you play golf. You can imagine a scenario where somebody just takes their 10-year-old at some point and says hey, you're not going to school anymore. We're going to the golf course every day. I guess there's some truancy laws that would prevent that, but like basically, here's another one. Here's a good one. Patrick Tyson Fury, right? You've heard his story, wasn't it? They pulled him out of school at like 11. Like, look, you're going to be a boxer. Schooling has no point in your future. You're here basically to punch other people and get punched. Let's just go ahead and start the training at 11 years old.
Yeah, I think that's a bit young. I know, like Danica Patrick at 16 went overseas in England, to hone her craft as far as driving and stuff like that. And there was schooling available over there. I get it when they get more to that age, like you're talking about high school and stuff. I think, if you're starting to do this nonsense at 10, no.
Yeah, that's why it's on the parents.
Yeah.
803-404-6100. Interested in your opinions on this. And again, don't want anybody to be confused. We're not criticizing at all one family's decision right now or one local prospect's decision, and certainly wish him the best.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, like Patrick mentioned, no blame at all, and probably encourage almost anyone who has an opportunity to better themselves, and that's what their family decides is the best situation. Good for you, and wish you luck, and hopefully you can achieve all you want to achieve. The broader discussion here is the model of achieving sports. I don't even know what to go with. Moving up in sports level, achieving all you can in sports. What is the ideal model, or is it just as simple as it's different for every situation? We'll discuss. We'll look at your opinions. Again, 803-404-6100. You can call or text here. It's the early game. It's 107.5.
I want guys that want to be here, not just going out there and hire some guy that has a famous last name. It's not snobby treads, a little bunch of guys that.
Talking a lot about sports this morning, preparing yourself for the future, maybe what you want to do. That doesn't just relate to sports, it relates to life in general. Maybe your mortgage, especially right now with interest rates being as low as they are you preparing yourself for the future, maybe saving a little bit of money on your monthly mortgage payment? If not, you need to call Jacob Crowder today, 803-719-1005. Jacob and Brian Kovar, the mortgage guru team with First Palmetto Bank, is wanting you to look at your mortgage statement, see what the interest rate is, maybe how much equity you've got in your home. And then right now might be the perfect time to refinance. Put a little extra money in your pocket. Maybe your home needs some upgrades. You're able to put that money toward that. A lot of options out there, but you don't know about them until you give the mortgage guru a call. 803-719-1005. You can email them the letter J, Crowder, CROWDER at firstpalmetto.com is the way to do that. Again, you've heard them talk a little bit about it. Just recently, both Jacob and Brian were able to help a friend of theirs refinance, get some money back. He was able to put a basketball court in his backyard for his son. I don't know if that means his son is going to play collegiate basketball or not, but at least it improved their life a little bit, made it a little bit more fun, maybe some father-son horse games in the backyard. You can do the same. 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank.
ShepherdsGlass.com.
Patrick, you were coming in a little hot in my headphones there.
It was loud.
Yeah. Give you the heads up.
I can drop my thing down.
What's that?
So I'll drop my
Volume.
I'll go to 10 or 11 o'clock. 10 or 11 o'clock.
There you go.
I didn't realize. I guess the Dan Patrick Show was a big part of getting John Facenda in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty awesome. Patrick, were you in the NFL films at all?
Yeah. I would like all of their kind of like documentary things.
Mm-hmm. Lucinda is the voice there, and that's who's getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I thought Steve Zabel was the voice.
He was the founder. His dad, I think, founded it, and yeah, he
Yeah,
does.
I thought Junior did a lot of the voice stuff.
He does, but he wasn't. He was more like the storyteller, right? And Lucinda was like the narrator. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Liev Schreiber does all sorts of narration.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Hard Knocks.
Yeah, but I think he might do. I think he might do some of the football lives as well, and America's Game, the Super Bowl, like documentaries for each team. I've seen most of the Super Bowl documentaries. I've been to the Hall of Fame. I would like to go again.
Yeah, I've been too. A long time though. Pretty awesome.
So let's see, Thursday, August 5th. So that's Hall of Fame weekend. Now you guys got me looking to see when the first preseason game was. That's Thursday, Dallas and Pittsburgh. Tickets are as low as $163.
I would not go for a game.
I don't.
Wouldn't pay to
I
see
would pay
that.
$163 for it. I would if you said $40. So me and Austin went $80. I know it's a preseason game, but that would be to mix in everything, go into the Hall of Fame, catching a game. That'd be a little bit different.
Yeah, if I go, I would just do the package with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they're right next to each other, and then just make it a Cleveland weekend. Their stadium's a high school stadium, so it's not like.
I've seen it. The funny part is, have you ever, what was it, a couple years ago that I saw it? Was it Nance and Romo and like the press box booth that they're in? It basically looks like a hunting box set over like in the corner of an end zone.
Yep. Brutal.
I think this time I saw it was the first year that Romo ever did it, and that's why they were trying to learn to kind of commentate a game together. And Romo's like, I don't know if I feel safe up here. I'm pretty sure they just put this thing up yesterday. Did Jason Barnes, Jane, really go to GMC? I didn't know he went to GMC.
Which JMC?
Georgia Military College.
Let's see. It's tough because it's a pretty common name, I think, in sports. But yeah, I think that's right. And I think he started maybe like tutoring wide receivers as well. The private coaching deal. Maybe he's been doing that all along. I don't know. Double check this. Georgia Military College.
I bet hotels down in Charleston are, if you can get one, are through the roof this weekend.
Why?
Just July 4th weekend.
Yeah, they are.
You already looked?
Yeah, briefly. Didn't take long.
Got some family will be down in Isle of Palms. It's my brother-in-law's 40th birthday. So he's got his Michigan clan down there.
That'll be fun. We're heading back in.
Brief, this segment. Right, Jim?
Brief. Yep. Guys are-
European soccer leagues do it all the time. Danny hits us up with. They find talent at a young age. That was on the Facebook live stream on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from Jake in West Columbia. Women's gymnastics, when they peak at 15, are elderly at 18. They have to start training extremely early. What was your butt there, Patrick?
The European soccer thing is you're playing for the hometown team. Like every English team takes the kids from their little town, so the North London kids will go play for the Arsenal Academy or whatever. So they're actually doing it sort of with their friends, the more elite of their friends, but it is still localized. They're not moving across the world unless they're like Messi moving from Argentina to Barcelona at 16, but he's Messi.
I do giggle at the way that was worded. It made me think of days of yore when they would just take kids and put them out in the field and make them work, from their hometown. I like how Patrick just said, yeah, they take the kids out of their villages and stick them in their soccer academy.
I mean, yeah, that's what it is.
Justin hits us up, says a lot of charter schools are trying to be like IMG in the state of South Carolina. He mentions Legion Collegiate up in Rock Hill, for instance. There's the Greenville school that has had a couple of basketball prospects as well.
Legacy Charter.
Collegiate. Yeah, Legacy was the one I was thinking of. Great Collegiate, obviously, in Columbia as well. It just seems to be more of a trend. Rooster P just wanted to hit us up and let us know that his grandson will be in the 8th grade. He, at this moment, is in summer workouts for football. Yeah, that's about that time for sure. Kelly wanted to hit us up and said a lot of this is the Tiger Woods syndrome. If I start the kid younger and younger, they will succeed. Let kids be kids. Well, that's the thing, Kelly. This is not a black and white discussion. This is very much in the gray area, right? And I feel like I'm right in the middle of it. I think, Bill, you feel like you are as well. From a parent's perspective, me, I have the 6 and 8-year-old boys. And, Bill, you were talking about how your buddies have kids in travel baseball, and you're wondering how much to basically to expose your son to travel soccer. It is, all right, you want to set your child up, ideally, for the greatest success. And this specific instance that came up is Devin Hyatt, really good football player for Dutch Fork. His brother Jalen's already in Tennessee with a full scholarship. He seems to be really set up for success no matter where he's going to go. But clearly his family thinks it's a better situation to go down to IMG Academy. Patrick, your line of thinking is, well, yeah, it's an amazing place to train and learn, and it's almost
and live.
It is it's like the top level in high school athletics, you would say, right? Bill, I think what we are discussing more is, all right, well, the path that you set your child on, even at a younger age. Because I think in Devin Hyatt's situation, he's going to be fine no matter what, right? You stay and play at Dutch Fork, win state championships like your brother did. You go to IMG Academy, you're in great shape. I think it's almost at this younger age where the conversation becomes a little bit more nuanced. And that's, Jen, to your point, when you're 10 years old and this is your entire life, probably not the ideal development for a person of that age.
It is, and it's potentially an interesting topic if people are willing to go with us down this rabbit hole. Because if you want to talk about the Clippers and Suns, and it was a 14-point blowout last night. If you want to talk about the College World Series, and it was a 6-run game and quite boring after the first inning. If you want to talk about the Lightning and the Canadians, which was again boring in a blowout, that's fine. But I think it is an interesting topic for a lot of people listening who are parents. Like, where do you start pushing your child really in sports? Because to me, Devin Hyatt has a chance that few people have. I mean, I don't know what the roster numbers are for IMG. 60 maybe. Patrick, you want to ballpark it? 60, 70
Sounds
for a
right
roster somewhere? I mean, and they're kind of recruiting across the country. And I'm with you in that Devin Hyatt is now training for what he wants to be his profession. The question is, at what age do you start doing that? Because I think we all are either involved in it or we know somebody who is really involved in it with travel soccer, where they're gone every weekend and the kid is practicing 4 or 5 nights a week, or maybe it's travel baseball, and it's at an early age, and you run the risk of burning them out. And Tim, I think for both of us, it's very interesting to see that lifestyle, because I kind of fall into one that, look, Austin just did sports. My son did sports from September through the end of April at 8 and 9 years of age. He turned 9 in April. and he had 2 practices a week and a game, and it was almost nonstop. And it's just the way the sports calendar rotated from September. Like it wasn't. He didn't say he did soccer, then he went to basketball, then he went back to soccer. So the way the seasons and everything rotated, so it wasn't that I forced him into one sport the entire time. But do you allow kids like that to develop slower, to grow, to enjoy being a kid? Because I get it. When you're Devin Hyatt's age, 15, 16, totally different in terms of pushing yourself to be the best you can at the next level and on to the professional level.
803-404-6100. If you would like to comment, you can call or text. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
Hey, we've got a way to create something called work. You know when the mute button is
So how does it work in lacrosse is my question, Patrick.
Same way as any other sport. I mean, I played travel soccer when I was until I was maybe 13. But it wasn't like crazy. Like it wasn't 5 days a week. I mean, I practiced maybe 2 or 3 times a week and had tournaments every couple weekends.
What age are we talking about?
I started travel soccer, I think U9 maybe, or U11 maybe when I was 9 or 10.
But I'll also say this: that here's another difference about travel soccer, because I played travel soccer early on, but now if you're going to play travel baseball or travel soccer, you're talking about $500, $600, $700.
Yeah,
I really don't think my dad paid that amount for us to buy. I mean, you might buy some uniforms, make sure we got some oranges and some Gatorades, but I don't think it was to the level of what you're paying now for kids at that age.
Yeah, I don't know. I always wanted to do it, but I had fun doing it. It was like I loved being at tournaments. I had a great time all day at a tournament.
But here's, I think, the difference. I think if I went to Austin and said, "Hey, do you want to?" Well, I don't think. I know we've already had this conversation. Do you want to do travel soccer? He's like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, he wants to do it, but I also don't want to burn him out, because travel soccer would be 3 practices a week, and then you're traveling somewhere on the weekend and playing 3 or 4 games. And I think there's something to be said for, like, if you've got, so I've got my daughter. Well, if I'm doing all this travel soccer, what vacation is she getting? Is she just is her vacation spending the weekend at I'm gonna try and go to, I like to take them to the beach. I like to do that. I think parents that do travel baseball get like 1 month off a year, and that's in like July.
Yeah, I mean, when I hit like middle school, we pretty much stopped taking vacation because all 3 of us were playing sports. So there was really never time. But I liked travel soccer because I had friends on the team, and tournaments are fun. You get to hang out all day long. It's more fun for the kids and the parents.
Oh, big time. Big time. We used to make our own fun as parents, but they become long days for sure.
Yeah.
I can have a lot of time. We do have James on the phone wanting to talk about travel ball.
Yeah.
Can you tell James to try to call back in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We are.
All right. I wonder.
What?
Read this text, because I'll explain in a minute from the last anonymous texter that we got in.
Yeah, we'll do it during the break. Here we'll be pretty quick.
Okay, and then tell me who is texting us, because if the dad is the history teacher and basketball coach.
Oh man.
So we're right square in the middle of a discussion of basically about the path our young athletes are taking right now in 2021, and then what's the role of the parent, and then the appropriate way to do it. This is coming off of the news that a big-time football player and prospect at a Dutch Fork High School going to IMG Academy in Devin Hyatt, and certainly we all wish him well and feel like he's set up for tremendous success. His older brother is a Tennessee wide receiver already. Also, we haven't even scratched the surface, Patrick, of something you put out yesterday. how did this go? There is a college football player out there. This Wisconsin quarterback. Is that the deal? Already has his personal logo ready to go as we're just 2 days away from name, image, and likeness hitting for college sports. Is that right?
Yeah, Graham Mertz teased his logo on Twitter yesterday. So when July 1st hits, he'll be ready to hit the ground running and I guess get that brand profitable. I don't really know how that works. It was going to work, but we will certainly see as soon as July 1st hits.
Oh, there's so many things about that discussion. I think I just got triggered. Anytime I hear brand,
Oh boy,
football player. Oh, this is where we are, though. So we'll get into it as we get close to hour number 3. Bill has already asked us to dissect a text message and the whole thing. We're gonna go investigative journalism during the video stream here during the break. Bill, is that what we're doing?
possible.
All right, come on. So Trey and was it Chad here?
Jen, we need to cut. I just need to cut a AAA spot, about 53 seconds. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do it after? Josh was supposed to email both of us, and it just dawned on me.
You're on mute.
Yeah, let's do it now so we can get it over with.
All right. I will remove myself for a second.
So Chad and I mean, no doubt that parents living out vicariously through their kids is pretty obvious and not cool. And I don't think that's part of the discussion. I think we can all agree about that. And the question then is, like, when is it appropriate to kind of focus and how much is too much, I guess. Right, the travel ball thing is a mentality for sure. What's the line? Yeah.
I don't really know what that means, though. Like, you care about put too much effort into one kid's sports that it doesn't.
Yeah, for some reason my internet just got a little goofy. And then Hope, my question is, do you feel like that was all on their own, or would you do it differently if you had to do it over again? I guess is my question. I need to run upstairs real quick and make sure my son's getting off the baseball camp this morning.
I didn't hear that. Trey, I am in Kyoto right now. It's actually kind of creepy. We're walking through. What? Camera. Here we go. Pro Walk Tours. We're in Kyoto, Japan. We were just walking through actually a cemetery. But I think I'm going to start. This morning I did watch a 2006 Germany versus Italy World Cup match. And now that we're getting towards Olympic time, I might just be watching Olympic highlights for every morning to get hyped up for that. NBC's already gone like full on Olympic coverage. So I'm pretty hyped for that. Let's see, when did this start? Olympic opening ceremony. July 23rd. Wow, that's much further than I thought. Yeah, and watching the Euros and how hyped everybody's getting for their country is making me very jealous and excited for the Olympics because we just don't do that. Yeah, July 23rd. Goes back.
What I miss? What happened?
I'm just touring Japan again.
Oh, okay.
I've been in Japan for a couple of days now.
It's a good place to go. I can see that. I need to. That's why right now on my tabs, I've got the hotels in Clearwater Beach pulled up for the end of July, and I've got Charleston for this weekend. And you're right, Charleston, Isle of Palms this weekend is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
The Comfort Suites on the Connector is $354.
Yeah, we were trying to think of something we could do, but there's really nothing to do.
Well, it's kind of one of those things where I'd like to get out of town for a day or two. And, but also, I mean, it's not like I'm missing. You got the fireworks here on the lake on Saturday, which is always fun. Being off on Monday helps. I may call it a weekend on Friday after the show too. I don't know, and I need to plan a vacation with the kids, and I don't want to go back. I need to go somewhere new. I need to go somewhere new. Well, I got a picture of a family playing volleyball at the Sheraton Sand Key Resort. It's just south of Clearwater.
Yeah, there's not many places you can go for one day here from here, and Charleston's one of them. And I looked at the hotels for 2 seconds and said, okay, yeah, that trip's not happening.
Are you talking about for one day?
Yeah, because I mean, I work every Sunday morning until noon. So I can't leave Saturday, and I have to be back Monday because I work Monday night.
Weird. My internet stinks, huh?
Yes. You're not moving. You're frozen.
Frozen.
I tell you, with everything opening up, rates and availability, I mean, it's crazy. We stayed in Knoxville on our way back on Saturday night, and to find a hotel was crazy. We usually like to kick kind of around, you know, like Pigeon Forge, that area, just because it's that much closer. And literally, they said that there were 6 weddings in the area, a Little League World Series, something about Firefly viewing or something. It was the first weekend everything was opened up, you know, from COVID. So, yeah, finding just reasonable hotels, I think, anywhere right now because people are just out. So, man,
No, I agree.
Prices.
And
we're in the intro.
Firefly viewing?
Apparently, there's millions of them, and some people don't get to see them. I don't know.
Of course.
Bill, which text message did you want us
Well, it
to?
was I wondered if it was Brett Jones' son. Like, if you read it, it was the anonymous text. It wasn't anything important. It was just the way I read it. It said, my dad is a history teacher and basketball coach. Or it said, my kids go to Dutch Fork. Like it.
And James called back. He's on the phone to talk about travel law.
But it wasn't a text message worth debating or discussing. I just.
And we're okay.
Terrence hits us up to start us off on hour number 3 here. The Richard Williams model. Dad of Williams. In 1991, he uprooted his family to enroll both Venus and Serena in Delray Beach Tennis Academy in Florida, where they trained 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for 4 years. This dedication paid off when the sisters turned professional. But an example of where it does work out well, for sure. I think we had another texter hit us up and say, well, a lot of people are trying to be like the Earl Woods, Tiger Woods model as well, and it doesn't work out for them. So that's kind of our starting point as we kick off hour number 3 this morning, coming off the news that a Dutch Fork High School standout football player leading that tremendous perennial powerhouse program heading down to IMG Academy. Devin Hyatt is his name. His older brother Jalen plays for Tennessee. This is not in any way to question that family's decision or that young man and for taking advantage of his opportunity. Nothing like that. We all certainly support him and that move, and hope it worked out to the absolute best. And Patrick, your point in starting this discussion is that you see IMG Academy, it is tremendous. I mean, I still think that the one-time head strength coach at South Carolina for the football team, Jeff Tillman, is the assistant strength coach there. Now, just that alone is got a mind body.
That's confirmed.
Okay, so he's still there, still on staff, and he actually come through there on his way.
If we're being completely honest, it's also slightly concerning for the amount of injuries IMG might have this year.
I don't think that was necessary. That's a different thing. But this is all part of the discussion right now in where we are in 2021, and then also knowing that in just a couple of days, college football players, college athletes across the board are going to be able to start cashing in on that name, image, and likeness. And it's just where we sit in 2021. Things are different for sure. And IMG Academy is not the only one. There are certainly plenty of charter schools in the state of South Carolina and all over the country now that have become popular spots for athletes to land here in the last several years. And there's the balance in giving your child, giving these young athletes the best opportunities, and then
Is it Jacob?
going too far with that. Because who Brian hits us up here, who was on the one that hit us up, Brian talking about,
What would you like to
this was Chris talking about the message that John Stoltz relayed during his Hall of Fame induction speech about travel baseball. He said that it's ruining baseball. And having these kids all week and then all weekend playing baseball, and then all the injuries that have occurred since then. And that's kind of where we sit, Bill, as parents right now. Your son's 9, mine are 8 and 6, and then the 1-year-old's got a little time. We're not going to put him into academy quite yet. We're going to let him get to kindergarten first. But it's decisions we are kind of faced with as parents on a practical level, kind of at this point in development, and seeing different families handle it in different ways. You know, I have a friend who helped me coach pitch baseball. His son is in travel baseball, but his son has an older brother who has gotten into it as well, and he says that's what he wants to do. And from that standpoint, you know, I totally understand kind of channeling your child in that direction. And he gets it too. He understands, like, you don't want to get burned out on the whole thing, but it has kind of overtaken their lives, and it is just what they do as a family, right? It's on the weekends they're traveling to whatever travel baseball event is going on, and then trying to balance both sons is a really difficult thing, and that's kind of what got us into this conversation, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't want anybody to. Devin Hyatt is going to be a junior in high school and already has multiple big time offers. This really isn't about him. But to be honest, this isn't about athletes at that age in the high school level. I use it more of like a personal therapy session just to kind of talk about and to hear other parents' opinions of sports. And how much do you press at an early age? And I guess an early age would be between 8 and 12. The middle school years, those 4 years that are kind of in there. You know, how much do you exactly press on what you should do? Look, I can sit here and say I'm the world's best parent. If Austin's not playing sports, he's gotten heavily invested in Fortnite with his buddies. And Saturday he was busy. He wasn't around the house all day. So Sunday I really didn't have a problem with him being in his room all day on his little headset playing Fortnite. And I don't know if I'm in the minority on that or where you draw the line on, well, kids need to be kids and grow up versus saying, all right, you're always going to be active. And for boys and girls too, but we're going to have you in sports, or we're going to have you, if you're not doing a camp this week, we got you doing practice. And if you're not doing practice, we got to get you back into a camp. And at what point you draw the line? I don't want to make this all about travel baseball, because I know a lot of people have, even people who don't have kids, have like wild, hardcore opinions about travel baseball. But it is interesting at that age that your kids go through. And again, I would assume there's a lot of people, our demographics, a lot of people who are parents or their kids are a little bit older, and how you approach the situation with getting your child into sports, what you did with them between the ages of 8 and 12. Because again, for Devin Hyatt and for, I think, Xavier Thomas went down to IMG. These aren't the first guys. Jordan Birch could have gone to IMG, elected to stay at Hammond. You get the point. Elite prospects, it's a little bit different, and especially when you're talking about high school. Patrick, you talked about it, and I think I'd kind of agree with you. I don't know. I'd take that back. I was going to say, if I'd have been a big time basketball player, I really was fond of the people I grew up with. I really liked Coach Harris at Lexington. Now, granted, I sat the bench and did it quite well. Nobody over there was able to sit the bench quite as good as I was at Lexington. But the bottom line is, I probably wouldn't have passed up the opportunity to graduate with my friends, to be a part of a team that I had grown up with since middle school, had played, B team and JV with, and people that I'd gone to. Back then, Lexington was a smaller community, but I probably wouldn't have passed up on that because of the friendships I had and the high school experience itself. But I'm not going to ever fault anybody in the high school level who wants to go and pursue, what I think is what they believe to be their future career, which is what Devin Hyatt's going to do. Now, my question, and where I kind of take this more, is back to, again, the younger levels. How much do you force your kid into travel ball or travel soccer or flag football or, whatever it may be, gymnastics? My daughter's getting into competitive cheer. She's kind of learning. She's got 2 practices a week, and she's got a conditioning that she has to go to. Like, she's learning what it's like to have full time, and she'll be 12 in September. So it's a little bit of a change for her, not being able to hang out with her friends all the time, or having something interrupt her day or her evening where it hasn't been like that for years. So I think that's the interesting age where you have the discussion, not at the point where Devin Hyatt is, where he's going to train for what he believes will be his professional career.
Why don't you weigh in on this discussion? 803-404-6100 is the number. Let's get out to the left of the phone lines now. Jacob would like to get in on what we're talking about today, about the development of young athletes, and then how travel ball can kind of factor into that. Morning, Jacob. We're good. You?
A couple of things I want to touch on. As far as the Devin Hyatt thing, this is a kid who, coming off of an injury, and he's really rehabbed pretty well. So that's not going to stop him. But like you guys talked about, as far as being at a strength and conditioning program like an IMG, that's going to set him up to have even a bigger junior year. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but most big time programs are done recruiting after a kid's junior year. So this year is going to be really big for Devin. So being able to put himself on a platform where he's playing against bigger D1 prospects as far as DBs, being able to showcase his talents on a weekly basis is going to be a bigger spotlight for him versus playing at a Dutch Sport or really anywhere else in South Carolina, from him trying to achieve really kind of what his goals are. Now, as far as you guys talking about, some of these younger kids and where you should introduce your kids at what levels, like I was just saying, if you're looking to go major D1, most schools are done recruiting our kids' junior year. They're really kind of finalizing that class, kind of scratching off those big time fish their senior year. So really, if you're wanting your kid to go D1 or at least major D1, I would say at least by 9 or 10, you need to be taking travel ball seriously from a basketball aspect. Even with football now with 707, you're starting to see a lot of these 707 teams pop up, and even baseball, because by the time a kid is, I would say, an 8th grader or 9th grader, colleges are already identifying them. They're already starting to build those relationships, not necessarily with the kids, but through AAU coaches, through friends or family. So if you've not really entered that realm of those relationships by that time, you're kind of going to get passed behind. As far as the training and the development, I mean, you want to kind of be cautious as far as how much you introduce kids to weights and things like that. But as far as getting on that travel ball circuit, it's crucial to at least get to maybe a sponsor team like a Nike team, Adidas team, by at least they're in middle school, so that you can have those relationships, you can start performing on a bigger level, because it doesn't really matter how well you do on a middle school team or a high school team. College coaches want to see you perform against that. And the only way you can do that is at the big camps every weekend and keep that momentum going. And with this name and likeness coming up, you're going to see a lot of kids start to progress to more of the G League and, you know, these overtime leagues, because, I mean, that's where your brand is going to kind of come from these days. And I'll hang up and let you guys weigh in on that.
Jacob, before you do that, can you give us your experience with this? Do you have a son or daughter that's gone through this, or have you coached? How are you involved? Do we miss Jacob? That's my fault. Totally missed out on that. To me, that's an important ingredient in this that shapes and forms your perspective. Let's hear what James has to say next on the Love Stream phone lines. Morning, James.
Morning. Got a lot of perspective on this. I've been caught up in all these things.
How so, James?
Travel ball.
What's
My
your
son,
experience?
When I coach travel ball teams, coach Irma Little League. My son won 3 state titles at Dutch Sport in football and a time in baseball. Nothing he did really between the 8-year-old and 12-year-old years really had much to do with that. I mean, Coach Knox wants me in the program about the 7th grade to start within his. I mean, I started to install offense and stuff for the 7th and 8th grade teams, but nothing he did before that really affected his Dutch Sport career. I mean, I'll be honest with you, as far as the travel baseball goes, I mean, when they're 8, 9, or 10, some of it was really important, but by Sunday afternoon, a 10-year-old kid who's played his full baseball game, it was 100 degrees in August, he's not learning any baseball. We just try to keep them hydrated from passing out. So, instead of playing 4 baseball games when they're 9 years old on a weekend, we would improve their baseball much better by having a practice and giving them 50 swings in the cage or something like that. So, yeah, it's good to play some and stuff like that. But the 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds is completely being overdone. If I could change one thing about my son's sports career, it'd be to play less in those years. And I mean, yeah, he's playing football at Furman right now, playing the Shrine Bowl, but the things he did in 8, 9, and 10th grade, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, that's not what got him there. What got him there was, once he got into the school program, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, that type of stuff. So I think a lot of parents are really overdoing the travel stuff at too early of an age.
James,
you get caught up in it because you think you'll get behind. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, totally understand. Bill, would you have?
No, I think that's an interesting perspective. It's kind of, look, I don't, thankfully, Austin's not around me this morning, but I don't, and if any of you are listening, let's not repeat what I'm about to say.
Secret radio.
I don't harbor dreams of Austin going on to get a scholarship to play sports. I'm hoping that whatever he does is academics, because I'm well aware. I think I had my moment when I asked my daughter's dance instructor at 3 years old how she was doing and if she was getting any better, and the dance instructor looked at me like I was an insane person for asking about a 3-year-old. I was just trying to find out if she, because they closed those dance practices. That was a long time ago. But having coached AAU,
wasn't the line? She's 3, right? Wasn't that the line?
Yeah. There's all I was trying to do was just be like, hey, is she
Does she have my sense of balance, or
it was basically just one of those the girl walked out because they did it in a closed room so you couldn't watch, and I just wanted to know is she over there chewing on her shoe, or is she being able to how's she doing, and it was one of those looks that I've given parents, or I had given parents in AAU or stuff when they would ask stuff, but so I understood it, and I felt like I was like, man, I got to pull back a little bit here, I guess, and not ask how my kids doing. I think that what James was saying is interesting, because it is a balance that I'm trying to find right now with both being a father and creating memories.
with my kids. Kind of as I thought off air, I'm over here. 3 of the tabs that I've got opened up on my computer are vacation sites to go and get a vacation with my kid. But also, Austin likes sports. And I think there's a lot of fathers, mothers out there. You understand your son, your daughter, they like sports. They want to participate. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to college, but you want to find that line of not burning them out at an early age to where they then get to the middle school level, as James was talking about, and they just had enough. And
Right.
I think that's the fascinating conversation, Tim, that you and I kind of sometimes bounce around when we're playing golf or something because of the age of our kids, where you try to both be a parent and create memories with vacations, but also if your son or daughter wants to play and wants to be competitive, okay, when do we start this? I'll say it again. Austin wanted to do travel soccer this summer. And I was like, no, you're too young for that. We're not going to get involved in that until after 10 years old. And some of it relates to what people are commenting on regarding the live stream and the text line, which is, make sure they're passionate about the sport. Make sure they really like the sport before you get into it. So I've personally always waited till 10, or that was always my thought. And it's interesting to hear other perspectives on that.
RL says, I'm listening to all the great advice from you parents. I've gone down the road I'm just starting on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Steve says you don't start pushing them until they show a good passion for what sport they want to play. And I just don't think it's that simple, Steve. I mean, my 8-year-old, if it was up to him, he would just play flag football. He started playing that and he loves it. And then I had to be like, hey, man, we need to play some other sports too. He's like, no, I just want to play this. This is my thing. Like, that's not what we're going to do. And now he's into other sports as well. Brian hits us up to age 12, play everything. Shaq hits us up, says it's important to let kids play and be kids. I believe the age we start putting more focused training toward a sport is when that kid tells you they want to be really serious about it, hopefully around middle school age. Anything before middle school, I feel, is good to explore, learn, and just play, in my opinion.
Let's ask Patrick, you're the closest to having done this. Was there a time when you knew that was what you said you really enjoyed travel soccer? Your friends were on the team, but you enjoyed it because you were around your friends. Was there a time you were like, all right, I'm doing this competitively? You realized, all right, this is what I want to pursue to college. Like, this is why I'm doing this.
Well, yeah, that was the plan when I was younger. But I wasn't only playing soccer. I still played basketball. So it wasn't like the year round. I mean, I played soccer year round, but I played other sports too. And then it reached a point, I think, where I wanted to go back to playing like rec soccer. And it reached a point with travel where there was like a China trip or something like they were going to China and it was going to be super expensive. And it was kind of like my parents were like, all right, if we do this, you're all in. And that's just what you're going to be committing to because you're at that stage where you need to decide because it's about to be such a financial investment on our part that there's no going back. So I was like, no, okay, I'm done. I'm going to play football. I'm going to play lacrosse. I'm going to keep playing basketball and I'll just kind of figure that out. And then a couple years into lacrosse, I had figured that that's what I was going to play in college. So then I started playing travel ball and I guess my sophomore year of high school, I was playing lacrosse year round and maybe rec basketball in the winter, but that was it. It was all lacrosse.
My son played travel ball and showcase baseball. Anonymous texter hits us up. Graduated high school, wants nothing to do with baseball now. Play multiple sports, take a break is how the text ends. We need to take a break as well. We see you on the Love Chevy phone lines. Would love to continue the discussion with you. 404-6100. You can call or text. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
The home of the Gamecocks and new head football coach, Shane Beamer, 107.5 The Game.
Today is an absolute dream come true. Not just to be a head football coach in the Southeastern Conference, but to be the head coach at the University of South Carolina.
Talking about my kids, it reminds me about the mess that is my house these days, because especially that one, the youngest two, yesterday was ridiculous. Somehow flan got in my house as a good idea. It's kind of like pudding or some kind of dessert. We gave it to the youngest yesterday at that, and then something else was combined with that, and blueberries, and it was just an absolute mess. And it reminded me of how much I appreciate Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning. They've been out to my house a couple of times and done a great job cleaning my carpets, got the house looking and feeling its best. And the way that Zero Res does it was the especially important part at my house because of that little dude, a couple of more other little dudes always on the carpets rolling around and the whole thing. I had nothing to worry about because no harsh chemicals are involved in that zero res carpet cleaning process. They use a powered water deal. You can go to zerorescolumbia.com, find out all those details. No harsh chemicals was important to me. Also, that there's no leftover soapy residue attracting more dirt back into my carpets. That's why mine have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well. And they've got a great deal for you right now. 3 rooms of carpet clean, $119 plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. That's Zero Res. Give them a call at 803-262-4020. You can book online, zerorescolumbia.com. Zero Res, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
All I can envision right now is I see a bunch of text messages coming in as our favorite texter. Our favorite Clemson texter right now is so angry at us for not talking anything where he can text in.
Well, what's going on here? Clemson Sean, a great one.
It sounds right.
So did Jacob convince you that Austin needs to go all in right now? Because he said if you're not fully committed at 9 or 10, you're not going to make it.
Did I couldn't. He said that, and then he came back, and I couldn't tell if he meant 8th grade or 9th grade. Like I when he said that,
no,
he meant 8 or 9, man.
Jacob sounded like an AAU coach that I probably have come across in my life because he started talking about travel ball and Nike. There was a lot of things there that I've heard from.
To get him on a sponsored team by the time he's 10.
Like, I mean, here's an example of that. I have enough connections right now. I could go get a sponsored team right now and play the rest of the summer. But that doesn't mean the kids are any good. I could just go get a sponsored team. I could go get Under Armour, or I could probably still got connections at Adidas. I could go get an Adidas team. Now, they wouldn't give us a ton of money, but if that's what you want, I can go get an Adidas team.
I would say it's not a big deal until you're at least close to done growing.
Well, and here's the other part. He clearly didn't, like Devin Hyatt already has all the big offers. Alabama, Georgia, like everybody's already offered him. His junior year is going to be, in terms of offers, he's got them. I like Mark. I don't know what ever play softball is, but it sounds like Mark, he needs to, at 31, you need to branch out into different sports.
That's awesome.
No. This is something that I'm wrestling with right now with Austin, like how much to force him into, because he does want to play sports, but I don't want him to hate sports or, like just grow out of it.
But you're not suggesting that this means he's a full year-round soccer player and that's all he plays now? Is that what you're talking about?
No, he has been playing it because they have a fall league and a spring league, but I really wish there's a couple pieces to this little puzzle. A, he really does like soccer, which I don't want to take away from him, but he wants to play flag football. But I've kind of told him, and this is a whole other conversation, you can get to Gilbert Middle School in 7th grade, and I know it's tackle football, but he's got all the fundamentals. He can catch and run, like he's fine. You can start playing football at Gilbert in 7th grade without ever playing it.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't. I started playing football in 6th grade.
Yeah, they'll start
I never
he can
played
go out.
flag.
He'll make the Gilbert if he wants to play. Now it'll be tackle. It'll be tackle as opposed to flag football now, but and he could do that in the fall and play basketball. So do you take him out of soccer for one season to let him do flag football?
Well, what couldn't you just? What would you say if you just said you can play? You want to play flag football or soccer this fall?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm pick.
Maybe I should bring you around more often to parent my kids.
It's funny.
That's what ours was. It was just our parents just said, "Look, you're going to be doing something, so you can pick what sport you're playing, but you're playing one sport every season." So
yeah, I mean,
it doesn't have to be a sport. You're doing something.
We'll play
My
everything.
sister did dance
I will say,
classes.
from a competitive standpoint, I'll put him back in Lexington Rec League basketball this coming winter instead of Gilbert.
There you go.
There'll be a difference.
Trent played football like just one season, and it was like maybe 5th grade or something, 5th or 6th. I didn't really care for it. He was just a baseball guy and stuff. But every year we registered for school at the middle school. Football coaches came up to him because he has the build, the broad shoulders and whatever. Sure, you don't want to play football? Nah, baseball guy. Sure. There's look at size. We're back in. Sherry hung up. The phones are clear.
Is Sherry still there?
And see, Casey, I agree with
That's
that
what I said.
too.
No, Sherry's clear.
What Casey said about
She's
splitting
So,
the summer.
No callers.
Correct. No calls.
Maybe a result of a 7-run first inning last night in a weather-delayed College World Series first game of the final series where Vandy rolls and they'll have a chance to make it. And then it's already weird in this tournament because NC State got disqualified there in the semifinals, and that's how Vandy got the last nod into the finals. And then also knowing that there was no College World Series last, call them back-to-back champions, but I guess it would be the last 2 national championships. If Vandy ends up winning one more game, they'll have 2 chances to do it. They won last night with Jack Leiter on the mound, 8-2, the final score over Mississippi State, where those Bulldog fans have made it Omaha West for sure. We've seen this happen before. Mississippi State still looking for that elusive national championship. Bill reminded me of the magical run that Ray Tanner and company went on 10 years ago now, making it back-to-back national championships. And as you pointed out earlier, we just throw it out there. They just happened to go play for a 3rd straight as well and didn't quite close that one out against Arizona. But our conversation has now shifted into young athletes and the paths they are on, and what's an appropriate path, kind of what is too much, what's not enough. And we got on this path because a young football prospect out of Dutch Fork High School has decided to go to IMG Academy. And this is in no way a judgment on that family's decision. And Devin Hyatt is his name. His older brother Jalen plays at Tennessee. He's already got a ton of big offers. So he is kind of already in the place that I think a lot of families and a lot of athletes, a lot of young athletes hope to be one day. And Bill and I have sons kind of the same age, 9 and 8 right now. And so we are dealing with, as parents, helping our sons negotiate because I'm one, Bill, that I try to keep the long goal in mind and knowing this is what really kind of helps me keep perspective, because I got into the Coach Fitch baseball for the first time, and I try to give my sons as much latitude and let them kind of take control of what they want to do and the whole thing as much as possible. The end goal in mind that when they're 16 years old, that's when you want them to really start focusing and starting to peak, I feel like, as athletes, because that's when you get scholarship offers and the whole things. And if they have that opportunity, great. If they don't, that's fine too. But the last thing I want to happen is at that point in their development, or even earlier, you've seen where kids burn out and they get disinterested, not because they're not good at something, they just don't like it anymore. They see it as not fun. And I think that's the thing that all parents want to avoid in kind of this path for their kids.
Yeah, I mean, again, the early ages. I mean, again, the Devin Hyatt situation is interesting just because he's a local prospect. South Carolina's got to upgrade the wide receiver position. Antonio Williams is already at Dutch Fork now, is a guy that they want to bring on badly. Devin Hyatt would be another guy for Justin Stepp. So I think that's why the conversation comes up. I got to be honest, if Devin Hyatt was down in Charleston or in Greenville, I doubt we would have even mentioned this morning, but being that he's here in the Midlands. He already does have offers from Alabama and Georgia, amongst others. Is going to be a big-time prospect. Why we bring it up? Just because of that. But the kid's got an opportunity to go and do something that you do. So good for him. To me, the conversation becomes more about that age and how you push your kids. And if you want to expand it out a little bit further, because a lot of people are saying, well, if they have a passion for it, how you push your kids and how much you get them out of the house to go play a sport and how much, especially during the summertime, how much you spend doing the weekend travel ball stuff. I mean, I know people who aren't going to have a summer because they're doing travel baseball every weekend. And then you go right back into school. School starts again in August, and maybe they take a month off and then they get right back into to some kind of other travel stuff. Travel soccer is the same way. Look, I grew up playing AAU basketball, and then I coached AAU basketball. I don't, I think it was Jacob who called in earlier, and I agreed with some of what he said. I disagreed with some. I had an Adidas-sponsored AAU basketball program, and we had kids from had kids from all over the state. Dylan Thompson was one of them. Had kids from Hemingway. Had kids from Burke High School down in Charleston, and we traveled every weekend. And on the weekends that we weren't traveling, the way I would do it, because we were a high-level team, I would have the kids come up on Friday afternoon. We'd practice Friday night. We'd have 2 practices on Saturday, and I'd send them home on Saturday night to be with their families for Sunday. That's a lot. Now, that was an older age. I started, those kids are on 14, 15, so that's right there in that area. But that was a lot for me. That was a lot for them. That was a lot for their families. And I think, when you talk about the development of our kids these days and you see what is an evolving landscape of sports, because I don't think IMG, we talked about it in basketball, you're seeing more and more. Basketball is going to be the one that I'll be honest, I'm really concerned about, because Patrick, you and I really follow this more with kids skipping now college to go to the G League. Basketball is the one that we talk about, like really focusing in on and trying to be a niche sport because of what you can do. It's kind of, baseball, same thing. You can get drafted out of high school and go straight to the minor leagues. Go ahead and start making a paycheck right away. Can't do that in football. Football, you got to go spend 3 years in college. So it is interesting to see what I will relate to as the business model of younger kid college sports these days.
Bunch of you weighing in on this subject now on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Let's start with Clemson Sean. I shoot my 10-month-old with a squirt bottle every time he falls down while trying to walk. You're never too early. Teaching fundamentals. Well, that's it. A couple of more serious takes than that. Maybe a sport like golf or tennis is different, but I was a collegiate golfer, anonymous texter says. Started tournament travel around 12 or 13. Still played other sports throughout high school. Things have changed now with kids having to choose so early in which sport to dedicate to. But that's the thing. I think a lot of parents see it that way, but it's not necessarily that way. A texter hits us up with a very lengthy one and a serious one. Disagreeing with Jacob, I think, was the caller they're talking about, who said they need to get serious really young. Talk to orthopedists about overuse injuries. Most coaches, don't know about that, but there's a whole area of medicine that deals with overuse injuries with young kids doing repetitive motions while they're still growing and the growth plates haven't closed. So a lot of coaches encourage pitchers to throw curveballs way too young or just pitch too many balls in general, and they end up at the orthopedist with their baseball careers being done at 13 to 15, where they were stars in Little League and used up their arms. Experts say the best thing is multiple sports that exercise different parts of the body during different seasons. There's so many wonderful lessons about life through sports, the texter concludes. So he's not against sports. And many parents and kids take it way too seriously, and very few make careers out of them. Play so that you can enjoy sports your entire life, not just a few years. And I think that's the theory, I think, that we all know. I think the discussion becomes, all right, how do you apply that in reality? How do you get to that point? And I think there are different paths. Let's not make it a one size fits all, and every kid and family situation is a little bit different. This text is really interesting too. I'm a former coach for 12 years and moved on to another career. Travel ball is a money-making, ego-driven Ponzi scheme. Wow, interesting perspective there. I watch kid after kid play high school girls basketball, for instance, leave their games on a Tuesday night, then go to Columbia 30 minutes away for 2 hours of volleyball travel practice for 4 years, only to end up playing volleyball at a small college. They wasted their childhood and teen years. If they worked hard in the offseason on their own with their high school team, etc., they would have gotten the same result likely. There are more important things in life than sports, and only making memories around sports teach them balance because it will serve them better in life. That's how that text concludes. I guess my question out of that would be, if they ended up playing college volleyball, do they get a scholarship? And then what opportunity do they get out of that? Patrick, I think your point, someone staring at 6 digits of college loans. If you get a college scholarship, man, that is a life-changing kind of deal. I mean, a full ride college scholarship, I'm trying to say, and opens up all kinds of opportunities that can lead to other things.
Yeah, because I did all that and I played Division I lacrosse, but that's not a full scholarship sport. So I still have tremendous college debt. So I mean, if the end game, if you don't go pro, but you have a free education and a degree and no debt, that is tremendous. That really can't be undervalued. So, I mean, that's more for all of the sports that are not, I guess, football and basketball, or the schools that are not IMG Academy and the super elite ones where, from a very early age, if a kid's 6'4" in the 6th grade, he's probably got a good chance of playing high-level college basketball. But for those kind of exceptions, it's everyone else. That's what you're going for, the scholarship, not pro ball.
Brody in Columbia also talking about the financial aspect of this, said, I played club travel soccer while I was growing up. One thing people don't always think about, the financial burdens these type of teams can put on parents. Team fees, camps, uniforms, equipment, traveling out of state every weekend, getting hotels, even out of the country. It adds up. And my parents had 3 kids at the same time doing this. Wanted to keep the discussion going on the Love Chevy phone lines. KB would like to weigh in this morning. Morning, KB. Morning, we got you. Go ahead, man.
I just wanted to make a comment here. I have 2 sons here, and I never did. I think there's a difference between them wanting to play the sport and parents making them choose the sports. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like I said, I have 2 sons. When I was younger, I played basketball, baseball, and football, all 3. And I never forced any of my kids to do any of those things until they wanted to do those things. Now, my oldest son, he went far left on me, and there's a lot of golf fans, but he chose golf. I have no earthly idea what to do in golf. But my younger son, he chose football. He played 1 year Pop Warner, and he didn't play again until he was in the 7th grade. So, and that's when he really wanted to do it. And until they show that they really wanted to do it, I think parents, we sometimes push that on them when in actuality, they just want to have fun. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Appreciate the phone call. Sorry to cut you short there, KB. Sean hit me up on Twitter, similar mindset here. I coached travel baseball for 8 years. Sean says it's very time consuming, but I also made sure my kids play football, soccer, basketball. You play different sports to help develop your major sports. So KB's point, Bill, is that you don't want to force kids. I think what we've seen in our kids is that they really enjoy it. For those that really enjoy it, then the question becomes, all right, how much do you allow them to go down a certain path? And then where do you want to kind of put the stop sign up and say, no, you don't want to keep doing this, at least not right now. You need to go in a different direction.
Well, I'll take it a little bit even for a step further. So I because this actually was on my mind this weekend, and I've thought about it the last few weeks, just from a personal standpoint. Like I said, my son played sports this past year from the end of August, beginning of September, whatever it was, 2 practices a week. He was 8, just turned 9. 2 practices a week, one game on the weekend. He did that the way the seasons fell, soccer to basketball, back to soccer. I think during that period, aside from a 2-week Christmas break, he had 1 week off from sports. Now, that doesn't count in school and everything else. You think about that age. So we got to the end of April. I thought he was just worn down. He looked worn down. School, they even in this weird year, adjusting back to 5 days a week and everything going on. And so I didn't sign him up for Lexington Rec League basketball. That was, I guess, spring, summer. Like they had a game this weekend because one of his buddies was playing over at the Lexington Rec Center, and we went and saw it and whatnot. And I sat there and thought, should have I signed him up for basketball? Should have I kept him going where it would have been year-round? Because I really felt comfortable with my decision at the end of April to give him a break at 9 years of age, to let him be a kid, to jump in the lake, to do everything else, to just get him out of sports for 2 months. He was at Ben Lee, a good friend of mine over at River Bluff, his basketball camp. He was supposed to be at Kevin Heisey's soccer camp last week and got sick. Austin got sick and couldn't go. So he was still going to do camps, but I was going to get him out of the routine of practice, or I've gotten him out of the routine of practice and games just to give him a break. And that's what I question more, is just giving him time to be a kid at that age. Or do people say, no, you got to keep him in sports year round? Like, he should have gone straight from soccer back into basketball or flag football or, lacrosse or whatever sports you want to throw at. I think that's where the interesting conversation is. Not just play different sports, not just be a kid, but do you give your kids a break? Tim, I think you and I are the same in this. We probably played sports growing up during the school year from August until mid-May. But then you had June and July off as a kid to rest, to hang out, to be with your friends, to have sleepovers, to go out on the lake, to do whatever it was. You didn't play sports in June or July, and I don't feel like that's what it is now.
Well, I'm a little different too, being more of a baseball guy. I think I remember those years, if you make the all-star team and you have a decent team, you can definitely play into June. I know coaching, just finished up coaching all-star youth baseball a couple of weeks ago too. So it would be a little bit longer for me. There would be a break there though. But I also remember not wanting to have a break. I just wanted to play. And that's when it gets tricky too. An interesting perspective on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line here. My oldest daughter just graduated from high school, the texter says, won the Gatorade Player of the Year in South Carolina, earned a scholarship to play soccer at the College of Charleston this upcoming season. But I look at it from a different perspective. Sports has kept my kids out of trouble, on the right path, exercising and eating right. If one of my kids decided to give up sports at this point, I would be completely fine with it, only because it's kept them out of trouble and on the right path during their childhood years. Appreciate all the contributions. If you would like to get in a final word, would love to hear it at 404-6100. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
107.5 The Game is on the air, online, on your phone or tablet, on the app, Alexa, Siri, in your gym locker.
Dadcast.
Sorry, I just missed you there. What was that, Bill?
This has been my own personal Dadcast. Work out some feelings and thoughts I've had lately.
No, man, I think it's relevant and timely. It'll be different if we were just like, here's what we would like to talk about today because it's about us. That would be a little different.
Well, part of the conversation comes from a conversation I had with another parent recently where I talked about not signing Austin up for basketball because I wanted him to have a break.
Right.
The other parent's like, oh no, I don't give my son a break. We stay in sports all year. Otherwise he'll just be sitting there playing video games all day. And I was like, well,
that's the thing. That might be the right call for that kid and that family, right? That's kind of like off that last text. Like, if you're concerned about your kid not going in the right direction and you think sports helps with that, then obviously it's a good thing. I think we make the mistake of assuming that there's a 100% correct path or like an ideal way, as opposed to like, hey man, maybe this is just keeping your kid out of jail.
Yeah.
maybe that's the best you could do.
Yeah, but keeping them off of playing video games all day is not a bad thing either. That's what I would have done. That's why I always had to play sports year round.
Well,
Not a
I
big
think-
deal for me to just sit inside and play video games and eat potato chips all night.
I agree with that, but I also think that it's an okay time. Like he's not going to do that for 12 months a year. Does that make sense? Like when Austin gets back into school, he's not going to have between sports and school and practices. He won't have time to do that. Now, there will be he won't. Maybe he'll get a Sunday afternoon, but also I'll say this: when we get into that part of the year between practice and then on Saturdays, if South Carolina's at home, he's going to be going with me to a Carolina football game. We don't sit at home much.
No, but you can still get home and play 2 games a fortnight before you go to bed, and it'll take half an hour because you can just pop the system right on. Like it's always easy to play video games.
Well, I agree with that. But I don't have a problem with, would you say, half an hour?
Yeah, that's why.
Just got a text that the audio stream is down, Jim. Just as a heads up.
I just hit it to see if it'll help.
Thank you.
Well, like I said, it's an interesting conversation. There is no right answer.
No, it's totally what's best. Obviously, if you see your child's a prodigy, then you're going to pursue that. But you also want them to be well-rounded individuals.
All right, oh wait, there's another tropical depression that's already out there.
What'd you do?
It looks like there might be 2 of them.
Dang. Getting busy out there.
Wow, 50% chance of rain Saturday, 40% Sunday.
But I was guessing it was going to end up messing with weekends. Or the July weekend.
Thank you, Whit. You should always join on YouTube. That's true, Alan. With what the 1-year-old is doing to the carpet, it is time for Tim to get him into some baseball camps.
Yeah, I tried to throw him with the 8-year-old today, and they're saying they won't take him. And I went out there and picked up my son at baseball camp yesterday. I just felt awful for the coaches having to control all those kids. Woo!
Is it a high school camp or like what is?
Just a local youth camp, 7 to 12-year-olds.
So it's basically volunteers. It's not high school kids that got stuck.
Right.
Their coaches
No.
threatened them.
It's adults that are running the camp, but I mean, having coached 12, 6 to 8-year-olds here recently in baseball, like it's hard enough just to contain that. And you start to know them through weeks and weeks as opposed to just randomly meeting a couple of dozen kids and you're in charge of trying to get them all going the same direction. Good luck.
I like this text. This is the perfect way to end the show. The text from 706. There is no middle ground. Rec ball is coached by volunteers and travel ball is better coaching, but so serious.
Yeah, fair enough. We're
So,
going back in.
basically, the if Kip Bulknight wanted to coach his son,
You guys are up there.
Bill really likes this text in. Anonymous texter says, there's no middle ground. Rec ball is coached by volunteers. Travel ball is better coaching, but so serious, like school ball does not even matter. I'm confused there, Bill. Why do you think that is an ideal way to wrap up this discussion?
I just think it's an interesting take. Like you're saying that, like I was just thinking, because I don't know why Kip Boulton came to mind. I think he's got some boys, but like Kip
Same age
was
as
a
mine.
pretty good baseball player. I think he'd be a pretty good baseball coach. If he elects to coach his kids in rec league baseball, I'd be pretty happy with my son playing for Kip Boulton. And I'm sure there's a lot of former college athletes who want to coach their son who are out there coaching rec league.
So what you're saying is there is middle ground.
I would think there is middle ground. But I think that's a good way to end the show, because as we kind of agreed on the live stream, there really is no true.
We should have ended by previewing England and Germany at noon today.
How dare you, sir?
30.
Switzerland France was one of the best soccer games that I've ever seen yesterday, and we didn't
You
spend
missed
any
it.
time
I'm
talking about
getting
it.
it off air. I think before you came on, I admitted I'm slowly
Dude.
growing on this Euro Cup stuff.
England, Germany, noon. Gonna be a heck of a game.
Jay and Pearson are going to do nothing in that first hour. They're going to be so distracted. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How about Trey says, if nothing else, I think the absolutely incontrovertible answer is that there is no absolute incontrovertible answer. I think the only thing I learned is that I don't even know what that word means. Thanks for listening.
TFM East Over Columbia.
Why Pokey Reese, Trey? I know he's coaching locally, but
Thank you, Anthony. That was a fun show. I enjoyed that.
thanks, DC. Sorry about your early football struggles there. Anthony, Hope, appreciate you guys. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Absolutely.
All right.